Chapter 195. After a shower, Lu Qing changed into a white t-shirt, jeans and dark blue sneakers. He looked in the mirror and thought he was not handsome, but he was clean and energetic, warm and confident. There was also a vigorous and high-spirited aura between his eyebrows. The latter was the result of reaching the peak of body refining and the vigorous qi and blood to a certain extent. I wonder if I'll wear matching outfits with Ke? He brushed his hair and smiled to himself. He was about to go out, but after thinking for a while, he turned back and took out a thin jacket from his backpack. Although he was full of vigor and wasn't afraid of the temperature difference on the mountain, it was a burden to carry a jacket. However, Ke was in the middle of her period. She was weak and cold. When they reached the glass bridge, she might feel cold in the strong wind blowing through the canyon. At that time, this jacket would come in handy. Well, it's better to be prepared for anything. Knock, knock, knock. He knocked on the girl's door. It didn't take long for Yen Zheka to pull open the door. Wait for a while. She seemed to feel that this was against her principle of not letting people wait, so she added, I don't look good. I have to do something to my face. It was her first trip with her boyfriend, so there must be something like taking photos. She couldn't be careless. Okay. Lu Qing walked in with a smile and stood at the door of the bathroom. He watched her apply the cream on her face and found that her face was indeed pale because of blood loss. What are you looking at? Go sit in the room. Yen Zheka said coquettishly. I've never seen it before. I always feel that it's a very complicated and magical skill. Lu Qing said with a smile. He never paid attention to whether his mother would apply cream or not. Isn't that a little unfilial? Yen Zheka pinned her hair to one side with a hairpin, which looked very cute. She glanced at her boyfriend and said, I only know a little. Every time my mother taught me, I didn't pay much attention. It's hard to give up on a natural beauty. Lu Qing said half jokingly and half sincerely. Yen Zheka smiled and showed her dimples. She didn't say anything but felt a little proud. She seemed to feel that her boyfriend's praise came from the heart. Only then did Lu Qing notice that his girlfriend was also wearing a white t-shirt and jeans, but she was wearing white sneakers. The letters on her t-shirt had also changed from yesterday's letters to today's black pattern. We're going to wear couple outfits, he said in surprise. This was exactly what he had expected. Was this what it meant to have a tacit understanding of each other? I noticed it a long time ago. You didn't realize it until we opened the door. Yen Zheka replied in a light tone. She didn't want to continue the topic of matching outfits. Didn't I care about your complexion first? Lu Qing ridiculed, but said with a smile. You deserve to be a detective. Your observation skills are really good. Of course. Yen Zheka raised her chin. Now that he had a sense of security, Lu Qing was less cautious and said whatever came to his mind. Ke, you seem to have a lot of white t-shirts. They were all about the same. Wouldn't it be too monotonous? Yes, Yen Zheka said casually. Different styles, different patterns and different patterns. It's very complicated. Lu Qing could only answer in this way. At this time, Yen Zheka's face was almost done. Her lips were pink and tender, which made her complexion look better. Lu Qing wanted to kiss her, but he controlled himself with difficulty. Complicated? Yen Zheka turned her head and chuckled. You'll know how complicated a girl's clothes are in the future. By the way, I read a post about this before. It said that the leggings, which are all the same in the eyes of boys, are actually divided into thick ones, thin ones, flannel ones, non-flannel ones, non-revealing ones, half-revealing ones, and combinations of them at will? Just thinking about it gave Lu Qing a headache. But he liked Yen Zheka's, I'll wait for you in the future. It sounded like they would be together forever. Yen Zheka pursed her lips and nodded solemnly. That's it. Then she joked. That's why I said that most of you boys live too coarse a life. Hello, coarse man. For a moment, Lu Qing was speechless. After thinking about it carefully, it seemed to be true. He could only watch his girlfriend put on her coat, carry her backpack, and get ready to go out. Cool, I got a call from Talker earlier. He said that his girlfriend is very grateful for the encouragement I gave her boyfriend. She wants to treat us to dinner on the 3rd of the month to thank me in person. Lu Qing brought up the matter as they approached the elevator. Yen Zheka looked up and said, Okay, I'm quite curious about what his girlfriend is like. Kai Zhongming was a member of the martial arts special training team. She was no stranger to him. And her boyfriend often talked about this good friend of his, and told her all the embarrassing things about him. Of course, Lu Qing would never mention that his girlfriend had been guided by Little Ming. This was a secret that he would never mention until both of them had white hair and reminisced about the past. Out of the door, they went to Yangtai Tourism Center and bought tickets. Then they took a special bus to Mount Mafeng. Along the road, they climbed step by step. Considering the existence of the girl's Aunt Flo, Lu Qing slowed down his progress. They walked and stopped, took breaks and breathed in the air full of negative oxygen ions, enjoying the free time in an unfamiliar environment. It wasn't until it was almost noon that they saw the glass bridge that spanned across the canyon. There were not many tourists here, but there were also quite a few. They waited in line for more than 10 minutes before it was their turn to board. As a boy, Lu Qing volunteered to take the lead and stepped on the bridge. He felt the emptiness under his feet. At first glance, he could see the swirling clouds, the rushing river, and the buildings at the foot of the mountain that were as small as ants because of the height. It made him want to jump down, but he was also afraid that he would fall and become a meat pie. I didn't know I was a little afraid of heights until I came here. Lu Qing complained to himself. He calmed down and condensed water into ice, calming down his fear and other feelings. Looking at the tourists around him who were trembling and didn't dare to move forward, and at the men and women who were holding on to the railings on both sides, he felt a little funny. He turned back and reached out his hand to Yenjika, wanting to pull her up and be ready to protect his girlfriend. Will Yenjika tremble and her legs go soft? Or will she scream and not dare to move? Lu Qing thought with implicit expectation. Then it will be a chance to show his manliness. Yenjika tidied her hair that was blown by the mountain wind. She didn't grab Lu Qing's right hand, and jumped lightly onto the glass bridge like a deer. Then she looked down with interest. She walked back and forth a few steps and looked at Lu Qing with a little excitement. It's very interesting. Lu Qing was stunned and blurted out. Yenjika, aren't you afraid? Not at all. Yenjika shook her head proudly, and then looked at the frightening scenery under her feet. She explained. Maybe it's because I was very weak when I was young. I often got sick and always felt that I would die soon. Haha, at that time I was very fond of imagining things. After I got used to it, I felt that there was nothing to be afraid of about death. I often thought that if I died at the most brilliant time of my life, I would have no regrets. As she spoke, she put away her feelings and said with a smile, if you're not even afraid of death, why would you be afraid of heights? As soon as she finished speaking, she heard Lu Qing say in a weak voice, Coach Yen, you're right. So, can you give me a hand? Yenjika looked up and saw Lu Qing holding on to the railing beside him. His legs were weak and his body was trembling. No way. Chung is so afraid of heights. Yenjika resisted the urge to burst into laughter. When she was about to walk over and reach out her hand, she saw Lu Qing suddenly stand up straight and smile as usual. I'm kidding. Seeing Yenjika's fearless side, he felt that this girl was very cute and pitied her. He wanted to use this to dissolve the atmosphere just now. If it wasn't for traveling and being in a strange place, it would be a long time before he could see Yenjika like this. Of course, he was a little afraid of heights. Yenjika finally couldn't help laughing. She covered her mouth and laughed for a while. In the end, she felt relaxed and her eyes twinkled. Chung, in fact, I especially liked the scared look on your face when you were waiting for me to save you. Humph. This will give this hero a sense of accomplishment. Lu Qing hurriedly crossed his arms and pretended to be a good man who was being teased. He shivered and said, Then come and save me quickly. Yenjika laughed so hard that she crouched down with her hands on her belly, so as not to lose her image. After a cheerful flirting, they walked to the center of the glass bridge, and asked a kind passerby to take some photos of each other cuddling in the blue sky and white clouds. Snap. This was the first time they took a photo together alone. In the afternoon, Lu Qing had no choice but to follow the strategy he had prepared and choose a scenic restaurant that wasn't so bad. After lunch, the two of them held hands and embarked on their journey again in a happy and relaxed mood. They went to the temple to burn incense and visited other people's settlements in the mountains. Although they didn't see anything interesting, it was the most interesting thing for the two of them to do when they were together. At 5 o'clock, they returned to the tourist line on time. They took a bus back to Yongtai City and found the Yongtai fish, shrimp and crab restaurant. It's not the crab season now, but they are famous for their crabs. Let's order too. Yenjika looked at the menu. Lu Cheng said in surprise, but you can't eat crabs. How do you know? Yenjika looked at her boyfriend with a cute face. When I was searching for brown sugar ginger tea, I saw that girls can't eat cold food during their period. For example, crabs. Lu Cheng explained. Yenjika curved her eyebrows and turned her head slightly to the side. Here's what I ordered for you. After a while, the steamed crabs were served, together with the secret soy sauce. Lu Cheng ate the crabs in pieces before. Facing the whole thing, he was a little at a loss and didn't know where to start. Let me do it. Yenjika smiled and took the crab. She skillfully peeled the shell and cleaned the insides. Even the big crab legs were sucked out by her. You are so skillful. Looking at her concentrating, Lu Cheng felt sweet and couldn't help but sigh. People in Jiangnan like to eat crabs. I've been used to it since I was a child. Yenjika smiled and pushed the plate of crabs to Lu Cheng. Lu Cheng picked up a piece and dipped it in the soy sauce. He felt it was delicious and immediately praised. Good, it's delicious. The food with love was better than usual. As soon as he finished speaking, Yenjika suddenly put on a serious face. Wrong answer, 0 points. Ah. Lu Cheng was confused. Yenjika snorted and showed her dimples. You should say that you peeled it well. That's the right answer. What a different way of doing things. Lu Cheng was stunned at first, and then felt funny. So this is how to deal with similar situations. After dinner, the two of them strolled around the night market of Yongtai's handicrafts. They knew that this place was a ripoff, so they just looked around. Several times, Lu Cheng wanted to spend money to buy some souvenirs, but Yenjika stopped him. It was already 9 o'clock when they returned to the hotel. Yenjika covered her mouth and yawned. Take a shower early and go to bed early. I'll do morning exercises with you tomorrow. We can't waste it. Lu Cheng nodded and had a different expectation in his heart. He asked politely, Does your stomach still hurt? Much better. It didn't hurt much after the first day. Yenjika answered honestly. Lu Cheng asked anxiously and expectantly, Do you still need to rub your stomach? Yenjika was stunned for a moment, and then realized what he meant. She blushed and spat. No wonder Dirty Tong always said that most men are shameless and insatiable. Cheng still wants to sleep here tonight. Lu Cheng was about to say, I won't do anything, and I can't do anything, when he saw her blushing and looking sideways at the carpet. Then you have to behave yourself. Bring it here. Chapter 196. Ah. Lu Cheng was confused. He didn't expect that the words shameless and insatiable would be followed by behave yourself and give me the things. Wasn't this contrast a little too big? Wait, what did the last 2 words mean? He suddenly realized and was so happy that he didn't know what to do. Okay. Did Yenjika agree to sleep with him tonight? Although it was just sleeping together in a simple sense, just this alone was a huge improvement in their relationship. Just this alone was a very beautiful thing that he longed for. Lu Cheng wasn't stupid enough to ask her why she suddenly changed her mind. He could guess that Yenjika would be so angry that she would go back on her words and kick him out of the room. I can do it, but I can't say it, he said to himself. Then he happily turned around and ran to his room. Clang. Hearing the sound of the door closing, Yenjika, who seemed to have exhausted all her strength from the previous words, raised her hand and touched her face, which was as red as blood. She murmured to herself, Why did I agree with him? Humph, he can't do anything anyway. Lu Cheng ran all the way to his room, and took out a change of clothes and martial arts suit for tomorrow morning's training from his backpack. At this moment, an idea flashed through his mind. He paused and thought for a few seconds. Then he put everything back into his backpack, including the dirty clothes he changed into a specially prepared bag. As long as I behave well tonight, I can sleep with her tomorrow night. Why not take all my things and save me the trouble of running back and forth? Besides, I can save a few hundred yuan by checking out of this room in advance tomorrow. As for whether he could behave well tonight, Lu Qing was confident in himself. She was in her menstrual period. Her stomach hurt and her body was cold. How could he think of taking advantage of her? Was he still human? He looked around the room to make sure he didn't miss anything. Then he carried his luggage, took out the room card and ran to the light. He ran to the door of Yenjika's room. Knock, knock, knock. He controlled his excitement and tried not to sound hurried when he knocked on the door. After 3 knocks, Yenjika opened the door and let him in. She then pinned up her hair with a hairpin. It was as if she had become younger by a few years and had returned to the time when she was in junior high. Yenjika's eyes swept over Lu Cheng's backpack. She opened her mouth slightly and followed his line of sight. Then she lowered her head and rushed into the bathroom without saying anything. Lu Cheng snickered, vaguely feeling that he could grasp the girl's current thoughts. She must be saying that men were indeed insatiable. She had only agreed to do it tonight, but he had already brought everything over and planned for tomorrow night. Since Yenjika had locked the door of the bathroom, Lu Cheng couldn't enjoy the sight of her removing her makeup. He had no choice but to put his backpack side by side with her suitcase. He sat on the edge of the bed and waited patiently with an unconcealable smile on his face. He even forgot to play with his phone and browse the forum. After a while, the sound of the shower came from the bathroom. The sound of the shower beat on Lu Cheng's heart, making him a little thirsty. He unscrewed a bottle of mineral water and gulped it down. He deeply felt that such a scene was indeed a great test. He clearly knew that he shouldn't do anything, but he still couldn't help but let his imagination run wild. Well, didn't they say that one couldn't take a shower during menstruation? It was only now that he began to have doubts. He was at a loss about the inconsistency between the knowledge he received and reality. I should consult my life mentor, Coach Yen, later. After a while, the sound of the shower stopped. Lu Cheng hurriedly sat up straight to show that he wasn't thinking nonsense. The door of the bathroom was opened. Yenjika walked out of the bathroom with her hair tied behind her back, revealing her slender neck. She was so beautiful that Lu Cheng almost forgot about his own question. "What are you looking at?" The girl turned her head shyly, not daring to look into her boyfriend's eyes. "I'm looking at a fairy." Lu Cheng took a breath of the fragrance and suppressed the throbbing in his heart. He praised her in a joking tone. Yenjika's eyes were watery because she had just taken a shower. She glanced at Lu Cheng and said, "Go take a shower." After that, she blushed and added, "Wait for a few more minutes. I've just finished my shower, and Cheng wants to go in now. It feels weird." Lu Cheng's heart was touched by her glare and his soul almost left his body. He didn't notice her abnormality and asked a question to divert her attention. "Ku, aren't you on your period? How can you take a shower?" "Why can't I?" Yenjika looked at him strangely. "I usually take a shower after a day and a half or two with the heaviest volume. After that, I take a shower every other day. I just don't wash my hair. Otherwise, I always feel like I have a bloody smell." She was a little shy and didn't continue. "So that's why?" Lu Cheng felt that he had learned something new. He smiled and said, "Coach Yen is indeed my life mentor." His words amused Yenjika and made the girl tremble with excitement. "Then you have to learn well. There are still many things to learn." After chatting for a few minutes, Lu Cheng got permission to take a change of clothes into the bathroom. He smelled the remaining warmth of the fragrance. He swallowed his saliva and suppressed his restlessness. He quickly brushed his teeth and took a shower. When he was about to finish, he hesitated. "Should I go out in my boxers or put on my jeans again?" Lu Cheng was a little shy because he had never experienced such a scene before. Finally, he dressed neatly and opened the door. The light outside was dim. Yenjika was lying on her side facing the direction of the bathroom. Her whole body was buried in the quilt, leaving only her fair and delicate oval face and her long black hair outside. She was staring at Lu Cheng silently with her big clear eyes, which were staring at the approaching Lu Cheng. "You don't have pajamas?" Suddenly, Yenjika blinked and asked, as if she had discovered a great secret. Lu Cheng smiled and said, "Boys are not so particular. I don't wear pajamas." When it was cold, he would wear cotton sweaters and cotton pants. When it was normal, he He would be shirtless with a pair of boxers. Why would he need pajamas? It's so troublesome to change. It's not like I have to see anyone. You are indeed a rough man. Yenjika chuckled and didn't care much about the difference in living habits. She planned to pick 2 sets of pajamas for Chung to cultivate this habit. If he really didn't like it, then forget it. It's not a big deal. When 2 people get along with each other, many ideas and habits will be different. Just focus on the main ones and don't change the minor ones. It will only make the other feel restrained. This was Yenjika's own opinion. She summed it up according to the books she had read. She didn't know whether it was right or not. Lu Qing smiled and admitted that he was a rough man. When he was about to take off his jeans and get into bed, he saw Yenjika was still looking at him with her beautiful eyes full of curiosity. Damn, I've never taken off my pants in front of a girl before, especially when I'm only wearing a pair of boxers inside. Even with Lu Cheng's current thick skin, he felt a little uncomfortable. He coughed twice and signaled his girlfriend to leave. Yenjika blinked her eyes. She didn't know what he was coughing for, and didn't want to avoid it at all. She was like a curious baby. Forget it, it's not me who suffers losses. Lu Qing took a breath and unbuckled his belt and took off his pants, leaving only his boxers on. Yenjika's fair and tender face blushed, but there was a smile at the corner of her mouth. She pointed out in a delicate voice, Chung, you have so much hair on your legs. She had noticed it when she applied ointment for Lu Qing. Today she saw it in the most direct way. It's okay. Lu Qing didn't take off the dark t-shirt he had specially put on. He used it as pajamas in case the girl was embarrassed. Some guys have much more hair on their legs than me. It's like wearing a pair of woolen pants. He was talking about old Qiu and Qiu Zhigao, but there was no need to mention such a physical thing. Woolen pants. Yenjika was stunned and then chuckled. That's a good word, a good word. Lu Qing shamelessly jumped to the bed with bare legs. He pulled the quilt, got in and leaned on the girl. Take off your hairy legs. Yenjika scolded him and asked him to lie down. She put her little feet on his legs and put her hands under his t-shirt on his stomach. The cold and smooth touch made Lu Qing restless. Plus, it was the girl who took the initiative. He swallowed hard and said, Ku, what are you doing? Aren't you going to warm my hands and feet? Yenjika opened her eyes and looked at Lu Qing innocently. You promised to warm my hands and feet in the daytime when you knew a girl's hands and feet would be cold during her period. Lu Qing turned his head and saw the girl's clear and pure eyes. He took a breath and said, I feel cold all of a sudden. Hey, are you cold? Yenjika's right hand slid on Lu Qing's stomach. Your abs are very obvious. Somehow, Lu Qing thought of the famous overbearing CEO's line, Woman, you are playing with fire. Ku, I will have a reaction if you do this. He exhaled and reminded Yenjika, in case she accidentally touched the symbol and misunderstood him. Yenjika was shocked and withdrew her hands and feet. She looked at Lu Qing timidly and said, You will have a reaction like this? Well, I have a lot of qi and blood. Lu Qing found an excuse casually. You can put your hands on me. I can hold it. Oh, Yenjika was more careful this time. She didn't dare to move her hands and feet. Lu Qing was breathing in her fragrance to ease the reaction of his body. Suddenly he heard the girl ask, Qing, did you help catch a thief this morning? Yeah, how did you know? Lu Qing turned his head in surprise. Yenjika said with a smile, The news is out. After that, she withdrew her right hand and took out the phone under the pillow. She unlocked the screen and handed it to Lu Qing. When you were taking a shower just now, I browsed the portal website and found a funny news in the local news section. I clicked on it. Hey, isn't this Qing? Lu Qing took the girl's phone with great interest. When he took a closer look, he saw his back and the title was, Delivery Man helped out and a white-collar girl caught a thief. Delivery Man? Lu Qing blurted out. When did I become a delivery man? Do I look like a delivery man? Have you ever seen a delivery man of professional ninth pin? Chapter 197. Lu Qing skimmed through the news and found that it had basically reconstructed what had happened, except that he was described as a delivery boy. Since it was a local news, there were only a few comments, and most of them were IP fans. Which delivery boy is so awesome? A part-time martial arts disciple? I don't think so. Their delivery boys all have uniforms and logos. This one must be an employee of the restaurant. Beside him, Yenjika buried half of her face in the pillow and punched the bed with her right fist. She said with a muffled laugh, "Delivery boy. Delivery boy. Delivery boy." Lu Cheng was both amused and helpless. Recalling that he was bringing breakfast for her, he exhaled and said, "That's right, the delivery boy that belongs exclusively to you." Yenjika's laughter suddenly became softer and stopped. She raised her head and looked at her boyfriend with misty eyes. Her lips opened and closed as she repeated Lu Cheng's words silently. "My exclusive delivery boy." Her eyes lit up little by little, like the dreamy starry sky at night. She looked at Lu Cheng, wanting to say something but feeling shy. All of a sudden, Lu Cheng felt that the sound of the cars on the road and the voices of the pedestrians on the street were all taken away. The surroundings became unusually quiet. It was as if the only thing left in the whole world was the beautiful Yenjika in front of him and her bright eyes. Without the girl's reminder, he suddenly understood what it meant to have the right feeling and atmosphere. He turned to lie on his side, propped up his arms, and moved his head closer little by little. Yenjika's eyelashes fluttered a few times, and she slowly closed her eyes. Lu Cheng leaned forward and put his arms around her. He breathed in the girl's breath. At this moment, Yenjika opened her eyes and unconsciously said in a low voice, "You're pressing on my hair." This sentence was like a magic spell. Lu Cheng immediately raised his arms and changed his posture. Then he froze on the spot. In an instant, all the atmosphere and feelings were completely dispelled. All the sounds outside returned, and the peaceful and dreamy world fell back into the mortal world again. Lu Cheng and Yenjika looked at each other blankly at first, and then laughed at the same time. They couldn't help but laugh at how their romance was ruined in such a strange way. Of course, Lu Cheng's laughter also had a touch of bitterness. The good feeling and atmosphere just now was gone after. "You're pressing on my hair." Was this the legendary laughing stock? The girl laughed for a long time. Her cheeks were rosy and cute. Lu Cheng could only look at her helplessly, waiting for her to stop. After a while, she finally calmed down. She pursed her lips and looked at Lu Cheng. "I don't laugh that much, haha." As she spoke, she laughed again. She felt that the scene just now was especially funny. Lu Cheng lay back down and pulled his girlfriend's right hand over, placing it on his stomach to warm it up. Yenjika moved closer to him and curled up next to him. Blinking her eyes, she asked, "Cheng, what were you like before? When you were in middle school and elementary school?" She suddenly felt that she really wanted to know more about Lu Cheng. Lu Cheng recalled for a moment and said with a smile, "When I was in primary school, I was very short. When I was in 6th grade, I was still called square root 2. However, ever since I started middle school, I grew taller and taller every year. In less than 3 years, I was over 1.7 meters tall. In high school, I didn't grow much, at most 1 or 2 centimeters. However, recently when I trained my body, I seem to have developed a second time, and I grew taller again." He hadn't measured himself for a few months, so he could only guess based on his feelings. "When you were in elementary school, you must have been easy to bully." Yenjika seemed to be imagining Lu Cheng, with an inexplicable smile on her face. Lu Cheng couldn't help but laugh. "How is that possible? No one bullied me at that time." Yenjika's eyebrows and eyes were full of smiles. She gently bit her lower lip and said, "Cheng, let me tell you a secret." "What is it?" Lu Cheng was excited to hear that it was a girl's secret. Yenjika pursed her lips, lowered her eyebrows and smiled faintly. "When I was in 5th grade, I beat a boy until he cried." Cried before? Lu Cheng asked word by word. He couldn't believe that his delicate and gentle girlfriend had done such a feat. Yenjika's dimples were bright. She pouted and said, "He sat behind me and always bullied me. He poked my back with the cap of his pen and tied my hair. In short, he was very annoying. I told him very formally that if you do this again, I will tell the teacher. In the end, he scolded me for only knowing how to snitch and being a tattletale. I got angry and said, 'Fine, I won't tell the teacher. If you do this again, I will beat you up.' He tried to teach you a lesson?" Lu Cheng asked with a smile. Yenjika smiled and raised her head. "Of course. Although I was still very sick at that time, I had been practicing martial arts with my uncle for a year or two. I knew some fancy moves. I punched him in the stomach and he cried. I was so scared that I thought I had seriously injured him. And then? Lu Qing asked, playing along. He deeply suspected that the guy who was beaten to tears liked his girlfriend. In elementary and middle school, many boys liked his girlfriend by bullying her. It was very awkward. When he cried, someone went to the head teacher, and I was scolded. But fortunately, I took the opportunity to ask for a change of seat. Since then he would avoid me whenever he saw me. Yenjika smiled embarrassedly. I was proud of this for a long time, Lu Qing said thoughtfully. When he graduated from elementary school, did he also come to you to write a student record with you? How do you know? Yenjika widened her eyes and asked in surprise. Don't I know? Lu Qing smiled. It's obvious. Yenjika rolled her eyes at him and continued. He did come to me and ask me to write our school records. At that time, I thought it was a chivalrous way of turning hostility into friendship. Later, we went to different junior high schools, so we didn't see each other often. In the third year of junior high school, he came to me like a gangster and confessed his love to me, but I coldly rejected him. Haha, you deserve it. Lu Qing expressed his satisfaction in a concise and comprehensive manner. Yenjika withdrew her right hand from Lu Qing's stomach and held his arm. She said cheerfully, I've told you a secret. Now it's your turn. Chung, you said you had a crush on me since high school. Thinking of this, she couldn't help but smile. She paused and said, What about junior high school? What about elementary school? Did you like any girl? Or did any girl like you? No. Lu Qing answered without hesitation. He sighed and said, At that time, I was very ignorant and focused all my attention on studying. Moreover, in the early days I was thin and small, so no one was interested in me. Later on, the atmosphere in junior high school became bad, and the female students were proud of knowing gangsters. I didn't interact much with them. I want to see thin and small Chung. Yenjika pretended to be pitiful. Do you have old photo albums at home? Yes, there are nude photos of me taking a shower when I was 2 or 3 years old. Speaking of this, Lu Qing couldn't help laughing. Yenjika's eyes lit up. Show them to me when you come back to Xioshan during summer vacation. Okay. Do you have photos of your childhood? Lu Qing also wanted to see Ku when she was a little girl. Quite a lot. My dad took a photo of me as a souvenir. There are dozens of albums. Yenjika smiled sweetly as she recalled the past. They talked about the past, exchanged secrets, and talked about their hearts. Sometimes they were excited, sometimes they were warm. Unknowingly, the night turned dark and it was 10:30. It's time to sleep. Yenjika looked at the phone screen and said with a little reluctance. Lu Qing was also immersed in the wonderful feeling of talking about everything. He wanted to continue rambling, but he still nodded with great perseverance and restraint. Let's sleep. At this time, Yenjika's eyes moved. She bit her lower lip and lowered her eyes with both happiness and shyness. Chung, I really like our interaction just now. I really like it. She said the important words twice. She felt that this was the way she wanted to get along. It didn't have to be intimate. It was also good to hug and talk. I like it too. Lu Qing looked back at her with a smile. After that, he was afraid that Yenjika would reject intimacy, so he worriedly added another sentence to express his thoughts. But Ku, I think it's not complete if we only have this. Yenjika understood what he meant. She blushed and said in a slightly coquettish tone, Qing, turn around. Turn around, please. Lu Qing didn't understand and turned around. Then he heard her shyly and timidly say, I just said not to think about that every time. I didn't say we can't. Her voice gradually lowered until it couldn't be heard. Lu Qing was delighted and turned around abruptly. He found that Yenjika was also facing away from him. Her head was buried in the pillow. Her ears were red and crystal cute. At this time, Lu Qing's heart was only warm and touched, without any color of lust. He turned off the bedside lamp and approached the girl. His right hand passed between the warm bed and her soft waist, completing the hug with his left hand. Then he gently pulled back and let Yenjika's back stick to his chest. Yenjika was stunned at first. Then, because she didn't notice any further movement from Lu Cheng, she softened her body and took the initiative to lean back. She was relieved. The fragrance assailed his nostrils. Lu Cheng, who didn't have any romantic thoughts before, suddenly had a strong reaction. Yenjika felt the change and her body became stiff again. She was a little timid. Lu Cheng hurriedly said in a low voice, "Leave it alone." It was really painful and happy. Yenjika didn't struggle. She heard Lu Cheng behind her using the breathing method to regulate her throbbing heart. Her face unconsciously outlined a faint bashful smile. She thought to herself, "Cheng, there's something I'm embarrassed to say just now. Sometimes I also like the intimacy between us. I like the way you are full of desire for me." She took a breath and leaned her back a little closer to Lu Cheng's chest. Feeling the warm contact, she smiled like a flower and said, "Cheng, good night." Chapter 198. Dragging her suitcase, Yenjika opened the door of her small dormitory and saw that Li Liantong was already back, typing furiously on the keyboard. "Are Ruru and Cabbage not back yet?" she asked casually. Li Liantong stopped typing and looked over. "They are stuck in the old campus." Students returning to school after the holidays were piled up on this day, and the school buses were not enough. "That's true." Yenjika chuckled. Ruru might as well skip another day of class. The May Day holiday was on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Zhong Yanru skipped her classes on Monday and Tuesday to connect with the previous weekend, and gave herself a super luxurious 7-day holiday. Li Liantong supported her cheek with one hand and watched Yenjika open her suitcase and busy packing. She said thoughtfully, "You and Cheng didn't take the school bus?" After getting familiar with each other, she started to call Lu Cheng by his nickname. "Yeah, he booked a ride online." Yenjika's lips curled into a faint smile. If he really had to wait for the school bus, he would have to wait for 1 or 2 hours. "Sigh, this is a bit of a waste of money. It only costs 4 yuan to take the school bus, but 60 or 70 yuan to book a ride online. Also, Cheng spent a lot on this trip, especially the room, which cost at least 3,000. Plus other miscellaneous expenses, it would be close to 5,000. I wonder how much money he has left." She came from a good family and didn't have to worry about money, so she wasn't sensitive about this since she was young. But now, she always liked to count these things unconsciously. She felt sorry for Lu Cheng. If it weren't for this, she wouldn't have been so shy and reminded her boyfriend to cancel the extra rooms. Li Liantong saw Yenjika's dazed eyes and couldn't help but click her tongue. "Ko, you look pretty good." Yenjika came back to herself and rolled her eyes at her roommate. "Dirty Tong, although there's nothing wrong with what you said, I feel weird hearing it from your mouth. It had a dirty smell." Li Liantong chuckled and said, "I am a pervert, but I still know my manners. I won't pry into other people's privacy, and I won't ask about the intimacy between a young couple. I will only sigh and say that you look good. Bah. What are you thinking about? I'm on my period." Yenjika suddenly realized and glared at Dirty Tong with shame and annoyance. Li Liantong spread her hands and said with a smile, "Naive. Menstruation can block one thing, but it can't block other things. As long as a man is lustful, what kind of tricks can't he play? For example. Even if Li Liantong didn't say it out loud, Yenjika was also stunned. She felt that she and Cheng were still pure and good kids who couldn't think of so many dirty things. He had read a lot of romance novels, but he had always picked those that were very hazy and beautiful. After being stunned for a moment, she rubbed her forehead and said, "Dirty Tong, you've reached a new level of filth." Was this still a little girl who had never been in a relationship before? Li Liantong was not ashamed of this at all, but her expression became serious. "Ku, to be honest, I have to remind you of something." "What?" Yenjika asked blankly. "If he doesn't have any reaction when you two are together, you have to be careful," Li Liantong said seriously. Yenjika blushed and pouted playfully. "What have you been watching recently? It's so strange. Aren't they just some scumbags who hide their sexual orientation and cheat in marriage?" Li Liantong sighed and winked deliberately. "Look at your red face. I guess you don't need to worry about this." "Yes," Yenjika answered quietly. Cheng not only had a reaction, but it was so strong that they almost quarreled because of it. She was too embarrassed to continue this topic, so she sorted out the clothes that needed to be washed and began to choose what to wear for the evening. Do you two have to be so intimate? You just came back, and now you want to go out for a date? Li Liantong was well versed in filth, but she didn't know enough about love. Yenjika said with a smile, his best roommate is treating us to dinner. There are other girls? Li Liantong walked to Yenjika, as if she wanted to give her advice on what to wear. Yes. Yenjika smiled slightly. No wonder. Li Liantong chuckled and looked up and down at her beautiful roommate. She suddenly sighed. Ko, your collarbone is so beautiful. I'm so envious. I like your delicate collarbone. Your preferences are a bit strange. Yenjika heard Dirty Tongue mention this several times, but she couldn't help but feel strange every time. Li Liantong smiled. What's so strange about it? What's wrong with collarbone? In this world, there are people who are obsessed with hands, feet, legs, long hair, short hair, flat chest. It's normal that everyone is cute in some way. Then what kind of obsession am I? Yenjika suddenly thought of this question when she heard Dirty Tongue's words. She thought about it carefully and felt that she didn't have any preferences. If she had to say, she would probably be obsessed with idiots. Silly Chung. She couldn't help but smile as she thought of something else. What kind of obsession does Chung have? Little fairy? After washing and drying the clothes, Lu Qing tidied himself up and made a final confirmation with little Ming. According to the time, he left a little earlier and waited outside the third building. Not long after, he saw his girlfriend coming out with a bag. Yenjika was wearing a white t-shirt and black knee-length culottes. Her legs were white and straight, and she wore light-colored sneakers. She looked simple yet not simple, beautiful yet youthful. She had also applied something on her face, which made her look really radiant and beautiful. You don't have to be so formal, right? Lu Qing was half stunned and half confused. Ko had never dressed up so seriously on a date with him except for the first time. Yenjika's dimples appeared. She lowered her eyebrows and smiled. Sometimes, for a girl, meeting another girl is more serious than meeting her boyfriend. Ah. Lu Qing was confused. Forget it. You guys won't understand. Yenjika held his arm with one hand and said with a smile, let's go. At this time, they didn't need to wait in line to get to the old campus, so they didn't book a taxi online. They arrived at Songqing in the usual way, and went to Taran restaurant near the school. The environment here was elegant. There were all kinds of porcelain and books, which separated the tables from each other. Not only did it ensure privacy, but it also showed style. Coupled with the slightly dim lighting, it was really quite a suitable place for dating. As expected of the Casanova, he really knows how to pick a place. Lu Qing sighed with emotion, and then told the waitress the table number. Under the guidance of the waitress, he and Yenjika found Kai Zongming and his girlfriend hand in hand. Kai Zongming stood up and introduced them to each other with a smile. Chung, this is my girlfriend, Fang Yuan. Yuan, this is Chung, and this is his girlfriend, Yenjika. Lu Chung and Yenjika nodded to the girl who stood up after Kai Zongming. Nice to meet you. Fang Yuan was a girl of medium height with an average appearance. Her eyes were a little out of shape. She was wearing a t-shirt and an ankle-length skirt, with a little makeup on her face. She looked at Lu Chung and smiled. Nice to meet you, Chung. I often hear him talk about you. Although he always says you have abnormal talent and amazing strength, I can feel that he admires your perseverance and persistence the most. He also quit a lot of bad habits with you. At first, Lu Chung was listening with a smile. However, as he listened, he felt something was wrong. Student Fang Yuan's aura was more serious, and the way she spoke was more formal. In an instant, he felt a kind of pressure. The pressure of facing the teaching director. He took a deep breath and joked. I can't believe what you're saying, can I? It's good enough that talker didn't insult me. How could he praise me and admire me? It's not scientific. Kai Zongming also smiled and interrupted. Yuan, I told you Ching won't believe me. You don't understand the way men get along. If you say I admire him, he will be scared. They teamed up to make the two girls laugh, and the atmosphere returned to normal. After they sat down and exchanged a few words, Kai Zongming winked at Lu Chung. Lu Qing took the hint and looked around. Where's the washroom? I'll take you there. Ladies, please look at the menu first. Kai Zongming stood up with a smile and turned to a corner with Lu Qing. As soon as they left, the two girls who didn't know each other fell into silence. But Yin Zhika, with her good upbringing, took the initiative to start a conversation. She smiled and asked, I heard you're from the Capital College's mathematics department? Yes. Fong Yuan answered uncomfortably. Did Professor Smith give a lecture at your school last month? Yin Zhika asked with interest. Professor Smith was a top scholar who had switched from mathematics to finance. You know about it too? Fong Yuan's eyes lit up. Yes, I'm very interested in this. Can you tell me more about the situation? Yin Zhika asked with interest. Fong Yuan seemed to have found a soulmate, and soon opened her mouth. In the bathroom, Lu Qing looked at Kai Zongming with amusement. It's not good to leave them alone, is it? That's not considerate. I'm just afraid you'll say something wrong. My Yuan is more old-fashioned. Don't make fun of me. Kai Zongming washed his hands. Old-fashioned? Lu Qing asked in surprise. What's wrong? I like her old-fashioned. Kai Zongming said with annoyance. I didn't expect you to like this type. Lu Qing sighed. You don't know what I thought of when I was facing her. Forget it, I won't say it. It's okay to insult a friend, but it's not okay to insult his girlfriend. Kai Zongming sighed and said, Is it like facing the dean? Damn, you know? Lu Qing looked at Casanova in surprise. We've been deskmates for many years. At first, I didn't think I'd like her at all. How could I like a serious, old-fashioned girl who likes to manage people? But then I fell for her unknowingly. Kai Zongming recalled the past and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Damn it, I hate my parents the most. I hate serious, old-fashioned people the most. But when I face her, it's like Sun Wukong in front of Buddha. I like her to manage me. I like her serious look. Lu Qing was stunned. After a long time he said, I didn't expect you to be like this, little Ming. You like this type. Does this count as Stockholm Syndrome? You're really like a pot and a lid. While talking, they returned to their seats and were surprised to see Yin Zhika and Fong Yuan chatting happily. Kai Zongming was stunned and said, I kind of regret letting you bring your girlfriend. Girls can pass information to each other when they're familiar with each other. Lu Qing sucked in a breath of cold air. I regret it too. Xu Rui, who was dating her boyfriend, suddenly received a call from the director. You work overtime today and finish the interview with Lu Qing. Broadcast it the day after tomorrow to coincide with the lottery ceremony. The director said concisely. Xu Rui felt the urge to smash the phone. Chapter 199. Rui, what's wrong? Cheng Mingqian, sitting opposite her, noticed his girlfriend's hidden anger. Xu Rui complained. It's all because of our director. I've already suggested to the director to broadcast the interview during the draw ceremony of the knockout round. They discussed it over and over again, but couldn't make up their minds. They were so wishy-washy. If they had told me earlier, I would have done it before the holidays. I wouldn't have had to work overtime. Cheng Mingqian held her hand as if he was a student. He smiled and said, Is it because of the interview? You know about it? Xu Rui's eyes lit up. Her attention was diverted. Cheng Mingqian said proudly, How can a boyfriend not know what his girlfriend is busy with, and what she has been busy with? I'll remember the key points you mention. Xu Rui chuckled softly. It's that interview. Sai, don't you think that all of you, as leaders, change your mind one moment after another? Anyway, I'm not. Cheng Mingqian said seriously, Rui, you don't have to work so hard. It's not like I can't support you. It's a job. If you feel it's interesting, you can do it. If it's tiring and troublesome, it will affect your normal life and health. It's better to be a full-time housewife. If Director Zhao calls again, you can just tell him to work overtime. Xu Rui looked at her boyfriend and sighed. I want to do that too. But how can I be a full-time housewife when I haven't gotten married and haven't even met his parents? Besides, I don't like to be someone else's canary. Speaking of this topic, Cheng Mingqian's fair and gentle face showed some embarrassment. Rui, don't worry. When the company is on the right track, My mom can't find any excuses. I'll take you back to see her. 1 year, I promise, within 1 year. His mother was too strong. She was the famous Iron Lady of the business world in Songcheng. She had made a whole set of arrangements for him, including his future marriage plan. If he didn't have enough confidence, he wouldn't dare to take his girlfriend to see her. Xu Rui smiled. I believe you. She had heard similar words many times, and she had also said similar words many times. After dinner, Xu Rui asked her boyfriend to drive her to the TV station to work overtime. Today, she boldly tried on a bohemian-style long dress with a pair of high-heeled sandals that she rarely wore. She felt a little bit of pain on her feet, and as soon as she sat in the front passenger seat, she couldn't help but touch the wound. Cheng Mingqian glanced at him and didn't say anything. He drove the car out of the underground. After driving along the street for a while, he suddenly stopped the car by the roadside. What's wrong? Xu Rui looked at her boyfriend blankly. Cheng Mingqian smiled. Give me 5 minutes. He pulled the handbrake, opened the door and rushed through the crosswalk. Because of the obstacles, Xu Rui couldn't see where he ran to. She was confused for a moment. A few minutes later, Cheng Mingqian rushed back with a bag. He took out a box from it and took out a pair of white sneakers. He smiled and said, Wear this first. I don't think I remembered your size wrong. Xu Rui glanced at the shoes with sparkling eyes and felt a surge of warmth in her heart. I thought you didn't notice it. After putting on the shoes, she felt that the grievances of working overtime had been alleviated. She regained the mood to chat with her boyfriend and arrived at the building where Songcheng TV station was located. When you're done, give me a call. I'll pick you up. Cheng Mingqian made a phone call. As for now, he had to go back and report. Xu Rui smiled and waved. She walked into the building with her handbag. While waiting for the elevator, she couldn't help but sigh. Her boyfriend was good at everything. He was much better than the immature first love and the male chauvinist second love. Otherwise, she wouldn't have fallen in love with him among so many pursuers. She also wouldn't have given up the offer from Huahai Satellite TV and left her hometown to come to Songcheng. His biggest problem is that he's a bit of a mommy's boy. Forget it. There's no perfect man in the world. Xu Rui comforted herself. She boarded the elevator and came to the second editing room. She saw Yang Wan, who was also working overtime because of the interview. Wan, what are you thinking about? Xu Rui noticed that Yang Wan was a little absent-minded. Yang Wan was startled. She covered her chest and said, Little Rui, don't you make any sound when you walk? You're too focused on things. Xu Rui chuckled. Yang Wan looked at Xu Rui and hesitated. Little Rui, let me ask you a question. I have a friend who likes a man. She wants to take the initiative. What should I do? Xu Rui burst into laughter. Wan, I'll pretend that this friend is you. Yang Wan was immediately embarrassed. She realized that she had been too obvious just now. Xu Rui stopped smiling and said seriously, I don't dare to say that all men are the same, but there are a lot of them who can't stand flirting. You get his contact information and find a topic to talk about every day. Be more lively, cheerful, and cute. Don't talk for too long and become a burden to him. 3 months. Believe me, 3 months at most. You'll definitely be able to flirt with him. As for whether you flirt with him and become his girlfriend or just have sex, it depends on his character. That's it. Yang Wan was stunned. Xu Rui spread out her hands. You have to learn how to put on makeup and make yourself look okay. And I'm only talking about some men, not all. Have you tried? Yang Wan blurted out. Nope. Xu Rui looked innocent. I've never taken the initiative to flirt with anyone. This is what my roommate told me. She successfully flirted with several men. And the result? Yang Wan asked curiously. Xu Rui's mouth twitched. I'm embarrassed to mention her. She only enjoys the process of flirting. Once she's done flirting and the other party becomes passionate and proactive, she'll lose interest and blacklist them. The world is so big. There are all kinds of strange things. Yang Wan could only sigh to herself. Xu Rui put down her purse and picked up the cup. She smiled and said, Contact me on WeChat if you have any questions. Let's organize the interview first. Don't be late. At 9 o'clock on Sunday night, Zhong Yanru came out of the small dormitory next door and saw Li Liantong sitting on the simple sofa with a cup in her hand. "Dirty Tong, what are you watching?" she asked curiously. Li Liantong changed the channel and laughed. "Isn't there a draw for the knockout round tonight?" "What knockout round?" Zhong Yanru was confused. "The knockout round of the martial arts club. Have you forgotten?" Li Liantong explained. Zhong Yanru replied, "Oh, I wouldn't have remembered if you didn't mention it." "Me too. Luckily, Ke mentioned it at noon," Li Liantong complained. "I really don't know how they arranged the schedule. The group stage ended in the first week of April, but now they're just starting the draw. It's been almost a month. If you don't pay attention, who will remember it?" Zhong Yanru sat beside her and answered casually, "The school will definitely publicize it." Most of the nearly 10,000 spectators who came to the martial arts club to cheer were just there for the fun. Currently, there were very few people who insisted on paying attention to the martial arts club. Once the craze was over, they would gradually forget about it. After all, they still had to study, fall in love, play games, read novels, shop online, and pay attention to all kinds of headlines. Everyone was very busy. "You're right." Li Liantong held the cup and took a sip. Her eyes were fixed on the screen. "Stop talking. It's starting." Similar scenes happened only a few times in the campus of Songqing University. Yan Xiaoling and the other netizens of Lu Cheng's fan forum were already in full swing discussing it, praying that they wouldn't be drawn against those particularly strong teams. Lu Cheng, Yan Zheke and other special training members of the martial arts club gathered in the martial arts club's martial arts stadium, which had already closed. They occupied Gieserscher's office and watched the live broadcast on their laptops. When the first group was drawn, they instinctively felt a little nervous and waited for the second group anxiously. The second group, Songqing University Martial Arts Club. The female guest took out the first small ball. In the office, everyone held their breaths. What happened next would determine whether or not they would be able to get more of the broadcasting rights. The female guest took out another round ball and looked at it carefully. Then she raised her voice and said, "Donglin Squad." Songqing University Martial Arts Club versus Donglin Squad. Phew. The sound of exhalation was heard. Lu Cheng and the others were relieved. This wasn't the worst draw. Songqing's Yueyao squad had a professional 7th pin, and an professional 8th pin Dan Stage Mighty 1. They were almost guaranteed to advance to the second stage of the preliminaries. Donglin squad, on the other hand, came from Donglin City, the other end of the province's economy. It was a squad formed by a local martial arts sect. They had a long history that could be traced back to at least 1,000 years. There was a high-ranked Dan Stage Mighty One in the sect, who was the leader of the martial arts circle in Donglin City. Donglin Squad has a professional 8th pin Dan Stage Mighty One and 3 professional 9th pin fighters. All of them are from the younger generation of Wensheng School. They are a little stronger than Fearless Squad. Yan Zheke recalled the information she had read. There were only a few teams in the top 8. She had already browsed through the general information. It's not hopeless. Sun Jian looked at Lu Qing and Lin Ke with a smile. The knockout was in the form of home and away matches. The result of the draw was the first to determine the winner. If each team won one match, the score would be calculated, which was the total number of wins. If it was the same, the substitutes would compete with each other after the second match to determine the overall strength of the team. Another Dan Stage Mighty One. Lu Cheng was a little excited, but also a little nervous. Wensheng School was also a force with a long history. Their Dan Stage Mighty One must be above average. Yan Zheke was about to say something when she suddenly saw a video clip playing between the two teams, introducing the two teams. They didn't talk anymore and carefully read the official information. While watching, Yan Zheke suddenly turned her head and looked at her boyfriend with surprise and joy. "Cheng, is this the interview you accepted before? Why did it only start now?" Chapter 200. In the dormitory building, Li Liantong and Zhong Yanru were watching Lu Cheng's exclusive interview with great interest. This was the first time they had seen someone they knew on the television screen. The random interview with the audience and the brief post-match comments did not count. He's a little different from the Chung that Ke mentioned. Li Liantong laughed as she watched. Whenever Ke mentioned her boyfriend, the most common word she would say was silly. Zhong Yanru nodded and said, "It's a little different from the last time you treated us." That time, the focus of the conversation was on the couple's relationship. Lu Cheng showed his humorous, considerate, and generous side. In the interview that was being broadcasted, the main topic was martial arts, which was Lu Cheng's field of expertise. He spoke confidently, calmly, and gently. Although he was still a little shy and inexperienced, the brilliance of him couldn't be concealed. This made the semi-acquaintances who had only seen him a few times and only watched him fight in the challenge tournament feel the contrast and impact. Li Liantong opened her mouth. She wanted to make a dirty joke, but in the end it turned into a sigh. "'Cause taste is really good." Yeah. Zhong Yanru recalled her understanding of Lu Qing and her impression of him when she met him a few times. She couldn't help but agree. Yan Xiaoling sat by the window in the second row of the classroom. The books on the table had been piled up into a fortress. She rested her chin on one hand and pretended to comb her hair with the other. She pressed her earplugs and looked at the phone on the edge of the drawer with a well-practiced attitude. She was watching the interview with a silly smile. This was a pleasant surprise. She originally just wanted to check the results of the draw in the forum, and didn't have any expectations for other things. Who knew that Songqing TV station would make a big news and broadcast the long-awaited interview? "Hey, this is the first time I've seen Lu Qing talk so much." Yan Xiaoling smiled. The whole interview was not much different from what she had expected. It was obvious that Lu Qing was not the kind of martial artist with a particularly distinctive character. His personal style was vague, and he seemed to be an ordinary, precocious boy. Although he was confident, calm, and dazzling, if one really wanted to describe his personality traits, he lacked any explosive points. To put it simply, Yan Xiaoling felt that Lu Qing was the kind of boy next door, which matched her initial impression of him as warm and considerate. He didn't disappoint her. Thinking of this, she sent a message to Brahman, deliberately provoking her. Lu Qing doesn't seem to have that kind of mysterious temperament. For this reason, she even added a crying emoji. Brahman quickly replied, "I'm no longer the child I used to be. I like my idol." Immediately after, she added, "That's right. Call me father. How rude of you." "What do you mean I'm no longer the child I used to be? It had only been slightly more than 3 months. Yan Xiaoling complained. Just as she was about to press the keyboard on the screen, her heart suddenly tightened. She found that the light on her phone seemed to be covered with a layer of shadow. She quietly stuffed her phone back into the drawer and covered her ears with both hands again. Then, from the corner of her eyes, she saw a black shadow outside the window. The mysterious homeroom teacher. Under the night sky, the remaining lights of the teaching area were reflected on the surface of the lake, rippling with the slightly cool night breeze. This interview was taken before Valentine's Day, right? Yin Zhika swung her hand that was holding Lu Cheng's hand like a swing. Yes. Lu Cheng looked at the girl with a smile, often showing her liveliness recently. Of course, in front of others, she was no different from before. Yin Zhika stopped her childish behavior and sighed inexplicably. "It's only been 2 months, but you've changed so much in the interview. It always makes me feel that it's been a long time since school started." Just like how she sometimes felt that they had been dating for a long time. So long that she had gotten used to each other's breath and temperature. She didn't have the nerve to say this, so she said with a smile, "The experience of the preliminaries has helped you a lot. More mature, more confident, more responsible." "I think so." Lu Qing smiled and turned to look at the girl's clear and bright eyes. "It's mainly because I have a girlfriend." This made him mature not only in the arena. Yenjika's pretty face was blushing. She turned her head and looked to the side, gnashing her teeth. "See, this is the change. You're getting more and more thick-skinned." There was no trace of anger in her coquettish tone. Lu Qing snickered and pulled the girl over. He let go of her hand and wrapped his arms around her slender waist. This was the way he liked to walk recently. Donglin City, Wenxing Mountain. Behind the vacation villa area where the land was worth thousands of dollars, old buildings with a sense of time erosion were scattered in the picturesque scenery, complementing the peaceful and quiet mountain night. In one of the buildings, the lights were bright, illuminating rows of bookshelves, a table covered with rice paper, and a young man in a black Han suit with red stripes. He was in his early 20s. He was holding a brush in his hand, concentrating on writing words that were sharp and restrained. Senior brother Zhou, don't you care about the result of the draw? On the other side of the study, two female guests were sitting. One of them had a ponytail, thick but not messy eyebrows, which made her look quite pretty. Zhou Zhengqiuan's breath was unchanged, and his writing was not messy. He said leisurely, "What's the use of caring? Do you think I can force those old men to start again if I get moonshine?" There was only one rule in the draw of the preliminaries, which was to avoid the first and second place of the group. Anything could happen, so it was particularly exciting. At this point he laughed. "Junior Sister Yi, you didn't pay attention to the Yanling Division's lot drawing ceremony, and brought Sister Jianglan here to wander around blindly." The speaker was Yi Yaoting from the Iya Martial Arts Club in Yanling. Her family was closely related to the Wenqing School. They both belonged to the branch of the Black Tortoise School, one of the 12 major forces. Their core martial arts originated from the Heavenly Water Scripture, the unique skill of the Water Sect, and the Black Tortoise Sword. Therefore, when they interacted with each other, they called each other senior brothers and junior sisters. Who said I don't care? Isn't there still a week to go? Yi Yaoting looked at Zhou Zhengquan with disdain. Regarding this matter, she had said it 3 times, but senior brother Zhou obviously didn't take it to heart. The Yanling division was relatively large, and there were more teams than Songqing. There were 2 more rounds in the group stage, so the draw ceremony was a week later. Yi Yaoting had nothing to do, so she thought that the Wenqing school seemed to have formed a team to participate in the preliminaries and had successfully passed. She simply invited Jianglan for a short trip, and came here to exchange ideas. The demure and gentle Jianglan followed with a laugh. "If we really get moonshine, I'm looking forward to seeing the change in your expression." She was a little older than Zhou Zhengquan, so after they got familiar with each other, she called herself his sister. Moonshine Squad was a strong team capable of competing for a place in the second stage of the preliminaries, and its reputation was not small in this circle. What change can there be? Just admit it. Zhou Zhengqiuan's writing style did not change at all, and the skeleton of the words was thick and heavy. "Anyway, we can only wait for 1 more year. This time, if they still can't pass the second stage, the team will probably be disbanded." Wang Sheng and Li Menglong already have a lot of invitations in their hands, from clubs in the North and South Division, and from teams in other big cities who want to form a team of 3 or 4 dance stage to compete in the North and South Division. Wasn't their original slogan Brothers United, take root in Songqing? Yi Yaoting blurted out, with some ridicule and amusement, but also some sadness and pity. Will dreams yield to reality after all? Zhou Zhengquan put down the weasel hair brush in his hand, and wiped his palms with a white towel. He sighed and said, "There's nothing we can do about it. Songqing is big, but we have limited resources. Yongshi and the other 2 are enough." While he was talking, there was a sound of footsteps outside the door. Hou jumped in and said excitedly, "Senior brother Zhou, the results are out." "It looks good." Zhou Zhengquan looked at his junior brother with a smile. He secretly exhaled when Yi Yaoting and Jianglan were not paying attention. The draw can be ruined, but not the demeanor. Hou answered with a smile. "Not bad, not bad. Songqing University Martial Arts Club." Songqing University Martial Arts Club? Yi Yaoting was moved and asked subconsciously. Songqing University Martial Arts Club? Some failures could be forgotten in a second, but some failures could be remembered clearly. Beside her, Jianglan was also interested and looked like she was waiting for the answer. "Yes, senior sister Yi, you should know their leading member. He participated in the Warrior Sage Challenge tournament." Hou vaguely remembered the general information. Yi Yaoting took a breath and said, "Lu Cheng? He became the leading member of Songqing University Martial Arts Club? He should have gotten the certificate of professional 9th pin, right? I told you you would know him, senior sister Yi." Hou was like a monkey with ADHD, who couldn't calm down. Lu Cheng, as one of the leading members, led Songqing University Martial Arts Club into the knockout stage? Yi Yaoting couldn't hide her curiosity and asked, "Junior brother Ho, how is Lu Cheng's strength now?" She knew that although Ho Yu seemed to be uncertain, he was actually quite proud. A professional ninth pin less than 18 years old was indeed qualified to be proud. The smile on Ho Yu's face disappeared as he said seriously, which was rare for him. "Very, very powerful." After that he couldn't help but add, "Very powerful." This was the answer of the proud junior brother Ho Yu? Yi Yaoting forgot to breathe for a moment. Back in the dormitory, Lu Qing browsed the information of Donglin's squad. Their members were all from the Wenxing school and practiced the fly-fall punch, which originated from the unique skill of the water sect. The oldest was Zhuo Yanjun, a 24-year-old professional ninth pin fighter. The youngest was Ho Yu, an 18-year-old professional ninth pin fighter. The leading general was Zhou Zhengquan, a 21-year-old professional eighth pin fighter, and Li Shengnan, a 23-year-old professional ninth pin fighter. A very strong and young team. Lu Qing forgot that he was only 19 years old, and that none of the leading members and substitutes of the martial arts club were over 22 years old. The moonlight was quiet in the mountains, and the wind was blowing at night. Jiang Lan closed her laptop and exhaled slowly. She couldn't hold back her emotions, so she stood up, opened the door, and walked to the corridor. The core force of the ice sect, the limitless tremor punch. Lu Cheng's rapid progress made her feel inexplicable fear. She had only learned tremor punch a year ago when she was in dance stage, and she was still figuring out force. How long had it been? She subconsciously looked at Yi Yaoting's room, and was surprised to see her best friend sitting quietly in the dark, staring out of the window. Chapter 201. Noticing Jiang Lan's stare, Yi Yaoting shuddered. Her eyes regained their luster and she said blankly, "Sister Lan, you can't sleep either?" Jiang Lan stared at her and chuckled. "Are you upset?" Yi Yaoting was silent for more than 10 seconds and sighed faintly, "A little. Previously, I thought that after going through the trials, I had matured a lot in all aspects, from my temperament to my strength. In the end, after watching his recent competition videos, I realized what it means to feel too good about oneself." As for the previous battle, she felt more surprised. The kid who was obviously easy to bully had suddenly awakened his innate talent, and awakened his special ability, causing a short burst of power that caught her off guard. If they were to fight again, the result would not be like this. However, in less than 4 months, that young and inexperienced fellow had completely transformed into a formidable opponent. Regardless of whether it was one of the core forces of the ice sect or the endless tremor punch, they were all things that were currently out of his reach. At this time, if she were to encounter him, her chances of winning would be very, very low. Jiang Lan shook her head slightly and laughed at herself. "I'm also a little upset. Tremor punch is still okay. With the inheritance and guidance, it's not too exaggerated to master it in half a year. But the core force of the ice sect is enough to make many professional 8th pin dance stage fighters envious. Isn't it always difficult to grasp the essence and charm of a visualization diagram? Just by mastering meditation, there shouldn't be any obvious advantage." Her tremor punch was self-created. She gradually realized the mystery of it through constant practice with similar martial arts. Then she spent the points of the Martial Artist Association to ask for guidance on the key points of visualization. After a year, she finally created her own tremor punch. With the realm of dance stage where the strength of the whole body was integrated into one, the subtle control of the muscles was not difficult for her. As for force, it was a low-level type that did not require comprehension of a visualization diagram. It was not very useful even if it was mastered, just like the burning force of Hongluo Martial Arts School. In order to grasp the essence and charm of a visualization diagram, one had to be close to mastering meditation. In addition, there were 81 difficulties. Hearing Jiang Lan's words, Yi Yaoting's mood improved a lot. "I thought I was the only one who was upset. It turns out that Sister Lan was also shocked. Sigh, maybe he will even surpass me one day. Don't worry too much about this. Generally speaking, the faster you advance, the more time you need to settle down before you reach the threshold of dance stage, unless you have the wisdom of previous lives." Jianglan comforted her. But you have already touched the threshold of Dan's stage, and are only one step away from mastering the meaning of withdraw. Yi Yaoting pulled the hair hanging by her mouth childishly. Sister Lan, Sister Lan. Sister Lan, you don't have to comfort me. You know that I'm a little heartless, and I'll recover in the blink of an eye. Besides, it's not a bad thing to be provoked at this time. In the past, I was always in the limelight among the warriors of the same age. Not only was I born with divine strength, but my cultivation level was also very fast. I was always able to suppress the majority of people. That's why I was a little conceited and a little arrogant. But now, with a comparison, it hurts me, it sets me off. I realized that I was originally nothing. If I want to go further, then I have to calm down and calm down. Jianglan nodded thoughtfully. This may be a good thing for you. At 10:30 on Saturday morning, in the train to Donglin City, sitting next to Yenjika, Lu Cheng and Yenjika were chatting about the latest hot news, dutifully playing the role of an onlooker, flirting with each other from time to time. Just then his cell phone made a ding sound. He picked it up and saw a delightful message. 20,000 yuan has been transferred to your savings card ending with XXXX. Current balance is 25,813.74. The broadcasting bonus is in my account. Lu Cheng put his phone in front of Yenjika, without any intention of hiding the specific amount of his private savings. After the lot drawing ceremony, the organizing committee had distributed the broadcasting bonus to each participating team. But Songqing University maintained its usual style of procrastination in administrative affairs. It wasn't until Friday afternoon that the accounting was completed, and the finance department went to the bank. Martial arts bonuses like this were generally calculated after tax, and the organizing committee would withhold income tax. I haven't arrived yet. Yenjika frowned her long black eyebrows and said, half surprised and half puzzled. Maybe the bank is different and it's the weekend, so it can't be so timely. Lu Qing guessed the reason. Maybe the school's finance department went to several banks at an awkward time, so some of them were transferred in time, while others had to wait until Monday. Maybe there was a system delay in his text message. It's okay. Yenjika pursed her lips and smiled. She couldn't hide the curiosity in her eyes as she glanced at Lu Cheng's phone screen. Cheng only had a little more than 5,000 yuan left in his private savings. I can't let him book such an expensive hotel next time I travel. Yeah, I'll take the initiative to invite him on a date tomorrow. I have my own private savings too. Receiving the bonus in time before the competition was a big incentive for Lu Cheng. It made him less nervous and more eager to fight. If he could beat Donglin's squad and enter the semifinals, there would be more bonuses. After 2.5 hours, at 12:15 noon, the martial arts club arrived at Donglin North Station. They saw the organizing committee staff and a minibus coming to pick them up. Seeing this, Sun Jian and the others immediately recalled their experience in Yimo. They asked fearfully, how many live spectators are there this time? The terrifying atmosphere in Yimo was like it was going to swallow all challengers. Not many, I guess. The staff thought for a while and said, the competition is in Wenxing School's dojo, halfway up the mountain. At most a few hundred people can sit. Phew. Li Mao exhaled and smiled at Sun Jian, Lin Hua and the others before settling down. Boarding the minibus, Yenjika looked out of the window with a clean face and suddenly sighed. When I watched professional martial arts competitions in the past, I especially liked and envied those hardcore fans who would follow the team to the away games. Without waiting for her to finish, Lu Cheng already knew what she meant. He leaned close to her head and looked out of the window. This can't be rushed. The martial arts club has just risen again. Everyone doesn't have such deep feelings. It takes 5 hours to go back and forth by train. I used to think that after I graduate from university and earn some money, I'll follow the Longhu Club a few times during my holidays. That kind of atmosphere and feeling would be great. People came and went outside the window, but most of them didn't feel like students. You might be too embarrassed to do that after you graduate from university. Yenjika thought of a fun scene and smiled deeply with her dimples. If people find out that a team or club's leading player is a follower of the Longhu Club, it will be very interesting, As long as Chung could successfully advance to Dan stage in university, with his Frost Force and Thunder Roar Zen, he could be the main force in the third level of the North-South Division competition. If he improved faster than that and reached the level of Peng Liyun and Ren Li, maybe he would directly go to the Wuyue Club or the Longhu Club and be trained as a reserve talent. It will also be very embarrassing. Lu Qing thought seriously and said, "But now I can make money without graduation. If there is a chance, I can ask Ke to give it a try. She seems to be very interested. Moreover, in another year, little Wantan will graduate from high school and the Longhu Club Forum will organize a meetup. It is very likely that they will arrange to watch the competition together." As he spoke, his gaze suddenly froze, because he saw a few familiar figures. Isn't the guy walking out of the station Kai Xiaoming? He is followed by Zhao Chang, Qiu Zhigao, Zhang Jingye and his girlfriend Wu Qian, and Wu Qian's 3 roommates. "Look over there." Lu Qing patted Yanjika's shoulder. Yanjika stared at him and asked in a daze, "Your roommates?" She knew Kai Zongming and Qiu Zhigao. At this time, Kai Zongming and Zhao Chang seemed to have noticed their gazes and looked over. They waved their hands happily and made a gesture of cheering. "Do they count as our first group of fans?" Yanjika's eyes sparkled and she laughed in a low voice. Lu Qing answered seriously and sincerely, "I think they are taking the opportunity to make friends with their roommates." With the excuse of following the martial arts club to Donglin and cheering for them, they invited their roommates to play in a different place and make friends with them. How clever! I have been roommates for almost a year. How can I not know what they are thinking? This must be Xiaoming's idea. The car drove away. Lu Qing and the others gradually moved away from Kai Zongming and his roommates. After half an hour's drive and lunch, they arrived at the foot of Wenxing Mountain at 2 in the afternoon. Then the minibus went up the mountain road. It took them 40 minutes to reach the mountainside and the main gate of the Wenxing School's training hall. At 3:30, the competition would start on time. Is this another kind of home field advantage? Yanjika got off the bus, breathed in the fresh mountain air, and looked up. Lu Qing also noticed and nodded solemnly. Yes. Wenxing School didn't deliberately create a home field atmosphere like Yimo. They chose to wait at ease. From the new campus of Songqing University to here, he and the others had spent a total of nearly 6 hours. Although they had caught up on sleep in the car midway, the effect was not very good. Except for himself, the others could be said to be completely fatigued from the journey, and their combat strength had unknowingly weakened by a lot. "We should have left last night and stayed in Donglin City for 1 night. It's normal that we didn't think of this because we don't have much experience. Why didn't Master remind us? Why didn't he make arrangements in advance?" Geyser walked out of the bus, feeling refreshed. He stretched his body, coughed twice and said, "That's right. Let's go in. Is it easy for me to be an undercover agent?" Chapter 202. Lu Qing and the others stepped into the dojo of Wenxing School after passing through the dark and cold cloister, and crossing the threshold carved with the passage of time. A ray of sunlight fell from the dome, mixed with the color of the glazed tiles. It illuminated the bluestone ring in the center, the training ground around it, and the wear and tear marks accumulated over time. There were high platforms on both sides of the dojo, divided into several rows. At the top, there were seats for guests who seemed to be of high status. Here, it was hard to imagine the unrestrained and ostentatious feeling of the martial arts arena of Songqing University. The spectators were either in formal training suits or in suits. It was as if they were watching an opera instead of a fierce battle. Seniors, officials, celebrities, disciples. Lu Qing could almost guess the identity of most of the audience. Yanjika beside him seemed to have the same feeling. She tilted her head and whispered in his ear. "It's like the exchange of sex recorded in the ancient books." Yes. Lu Qing suddenly realized. This was a perfect summary of his feelings just now. In ancient times, when sex had exchanges and sparring sessions, they would invite the local martial arts seniors and officials to spectate. They would also allow their disciples to sit in as spectators as possible. There was nothing wrong with this, but it was completely different from the competition atmosphere that Lu Qing and Yanjika had been exposed to since childhood. In those times, martial arts didn't belong to the public. Ordinary people didn't even have the right to cheer. Lu Qing undoubtedly preferred the enthusiasm in his own martial arts arena. He and Yenjika shared such feelings and followed Gizershur into the away team locker room. In a seat on the high platform, Yi Yaoting, wearing a light-colored coat, watched Lu Cheng's figure and asked with a slightly complicated expression, "Sister Lan, which side do you think has a higher chance of winning?" The draw ceremony for the Yinling division was tomorrow night. She and Jiang Lan didn't rush back, because they couldn't interfere with the final result anyway. Jiang Lan held her chin with one hand and smiled slightly. In terms of winning probability, Wenqing School is definitely more likely. But Lu Qing and Lin Ke have their own characteristics and strengths. They belong to the top part of the professional 9th pin fighters. If they participate in the Warrior Sage Challenge tournament, in the later stage, it's not impossible to defeat those 8th pin fighters who consume a lot of energy. If they team up and take turns to fight, little brother Zhou won't be able to handle it. Senior brother Zhou is a little stronger than Wei Xingtian, but there is a limit to it. Compared to when he defeated Fearless Squad, both Lu Qing and Lin Ke have improved a lot. Yi Yaoting didn't say it clearly, but the meaning was clear. She was worried that Zhou Zhengquan would lose more cleanly than Wei Xingtian. She paused and asked half curiously, "Sister Lan, do you think it's possible that Lin Ke has entered the Danqi state?" "It's not that easy to reach the Danqi stage." Jiang Lan laughed. Lin Ke only grasped the meaning of withdraw at the end of March. Up until now, it has been less than 2 months. Speaking of those painstaking efforts, he can't finish them. It took me 7 months to grasp the meaning of withdraw and step into the Danqi state. No matter how talented he is, he can't build a tall building from scratch without 3 or 4 months of foundation. I see. Yi Yaoting nodded thoughtfully. Then Wenqing School has a better chance of winning. Junior brother Ho, senior sister Zhua and senior sister Li are all strong 9th pin fighters. Especially the former, she didn't dare to say that she could win for sure. In the away team locker room, Gizershur noticed that Li Mao, Sun Jian and the others looked tired. He let out a sigh and attracted everyone's attention. "Little Yen, what strategy do you think Donglin's squad will use? How will they line up?" He pointed at Yin Zhika with a smile. "Don't be shy. Analyze it for us." "That's right. Coach Yen. Why don't you say something?" Guoqing couldn't help laughing. Yin Zhika was confused and bewildered by the crowd's laughter. Her pretty face turned pink, but she didn't decline and said generously, "I'm sorry, but I'm sorry. Donglin's squad must have seen the video of our match with Fearless Squad. They will definitely find a way to restrain Lu Cheng's abnormal physical strength." Speaking of her boyfriend's abnormal physical strength, she couldn't help but laugh. Then she despised herself in her mind. "Yin Zhika, if this was a speech, there would be no way to save your laughter. You weren't like this before." Lu Qing put on an innocent expression and mouthed silently, "What's so funny about this?" Yin Zhika glanced at him, took a deep breath and continued seriously, "It's hard for them to determine the order of our battle, so they can't arrange Zhou Zhengquan, an 8th pin Dan stage fighter, according to the order of Lu Cheng and Lin Quebec. I think they'll compromise and let Zhou Zhengquan be the second to fight. In this way, if we fight Lin Ke first, he will fight with Zhu Yanjun, Li Shengnan and Hou Yu, 3 strong professional 9th pin fighters. If there are no accidents, it will be difficult for him to win quickly. That is to say, he will consume a lot of energy. And if he faces Zhou Zhengquan in such a state, it's hard to say if he can open up the situation for Lu Cheng. Once Lu Cheng faces Zhou Zhengquan, who is almost in perfect condition, no matter how good his physical strength is, he can't show it. If Lu Cheng goes first, with his abnormal physical strength, he may be able to challenge Zhou Zhengquan in his best condition, and create a chance for Lin Ke to win. But Lin Ke's physical strength is only average. After a fierce battle with a Dan stage fighter, what are his chances of winning against the remaining strong professional 9th pin fighter of Donglin's squad? But we still have senior Sun Jian behind us, so we still have a chance. Listening to Yin Zhika's detailed explanation, Sun Jian, Li Mao and the rest nodded slightly. This was indeed the strategy that the Donglin battle team was most likely to adopt. Although it was a moderate strategy, it was effective enough. Besides, they also silently complained. Although we all know that Yan Zhika is Lu Cheng's girlfriend, don't show too obvious bias when you analyze. Don't always say that Lin Kei's physical strength is ordinary. Abnormal people like Cheng are abnormal. Are you bullying a single dog? Be careful not to affect the harmonious, lively, stable and united situation of the martial arts club. Feeling everyone's meaningful gaze and her cousin's inexplicable gaze, Yan Zhika couldn't help but reach out to touch her slightly hot cheeks. Was my analysis just now wrong? Why is everyone else so inexplicable except Cheng? She restrained her doubts and finally added. In addition, we have to pay attention to Hoyu. He maintained an undefeated record in the previous group matches. At most, he took the initiative to quit because of excessive physical strength consumption. He hasn't shown his limit yet. In other words, no one knew whether Hoyu had one or two more hidden skills compared to last year. And these were all things that Yan Zhika and Lu Cheng had discussed in private. Good analysis. Geezer sure nodded and smiled. Coach sure, I have one more thing. Yan Zhika raised her hand to report, blushing. She accidentally forgot it just now. So embarrassing. Go ahead. Geezer sure nodded with a smile. Yan Zhika quickly added. The unique skills of the water sect are particular about nourishment and endurance. The martial arts derived from it all have the characteristics of good endurance. I believe that Wenxing School's fly-fall punch is no exception. Yes, fly-fall punch does have this characteristic. Zhou Zhengquan can be said to be quite good at restraining the 8th pin dance stage. Since Yan Zhika had discovered the blind spot that he had deliberately hidden, Geezer sure didn't mind explaining. However, both Lin Kei and Lu Cheng have improved a lot compared to when they went to Yimo. You don't have to worry too much about this. What's our main problem? Geezer sure chuckled. Yes, except for the two leading players, the substitutes are relatively weak. If it weren't for Wenxing School's pride and the fact that they thought they could win under normal circumstances, and didn't apply for a special competition format in advance, how could we have any hope? Sun Jian, Li Mao, Yan Zhika and the others were embarrassed by his words. But it's not even a year of special training. It's good that you can improve so fast. As an elder, Geezer sure comforted Li Mao warmly after giving him a lesson on setbacks. Li Mao, you've been getting better at still stance lately. It won't be long before you enter the entry level. At that time, with your physical fitness, it should be easy for you to reach the level of amateur first pin. Try to reach the level of professional 9th pin before November this year. Hearing Coach Sher's affirmation, Li Mao felt inexplicably excited and moved. Although he did think that he had gotten a feel for the still stance recently, he was still the kind of person who lacked confidence and dared not be blindly happy. He had always been nervous until Geezer Sher's words calmed him down and made him feel a little more certain. As for Yu Yan, Geezer Sher looked at Yan Zhika. After 2 or 3 months of training, your physical quality will be improved to the level where you can withstand the internal training method. Remember to ask for one from your family, and try to reach the level of professional 9th pin before November. Yes, yes. Yan Zhika pursed her lips and nodded like a chicken pecking rice. Her eyes were shining brightly. Thinking that she was getting closer and closer to the level of professional 9th pin, the girl couldn't hide her excitement. Lu Cheng's Thunder Roar Zen was not only a fighting method, but also an internal training method. With this method, one could practice martial arts into one's bones and body. The meteor force of the Ji family also included a similar part. The reason why Yan Zhika didn't use it was because her body hadn't reached that level yet. If she forced herself to practice it, it would only hurt her internal organs. Lu Cheng was also taught Thunder Roar Zen at the beginning of this semester. Guoqing, you've practiced mountain moving fist very well, and you have some talent. In the next semester, not to mention Yan and Li Mao, there is still hope for you to reach the level of amateur first pin. Sun Jian, if you and Lin Hua insist on participating in the special training in the next 2 semesters, there is still hope for you to get the certificate of professional 9th pin before graduation. Geezer Sher commented one by one and took the opportunity to educate them. In the end, he looked at Lu Cheng and Lin Kei and said with a smile, "As for the order of appearance, don't worry so much. Don't forget our original goal. We are here to practice in actual combat. Last time Lin Ke challenged an intact 8th pin Dan stage fighter. So this time it's Lu Cheng's turn. As he spoke, his face became serious. Lu Cheng, you're the first to fight today. Lu Cheng took a deep breath and said loudly, okay. What would it be like to face an intact 8th pin Dan stage fighter? Lu Cheng took off his coat calmly and high-fived Yen Zhika, who was beside him. Don't be careless. Yen Zhika reminded him with bright eyes. Lu Cheng smiled. Don't worry. He mouthed the words, Coach Yen. He and Yen Zhika had discussed the issue of Hou many times. Seeing his girlfriend smile, he high-fived everyone along the way and shouted a slogan. Only then did he turn around and walk along the road, walking towards the ring under the gazes of the silent audience. Come on, Lu Cheng. Kai Zongming shouted subconsciously. He didn't fit in with the surrounding atmosphere, which made him feel like he was an idiot. He couldn't help blushing and whispered to himself, this is King embarrassing. Hearing this lonely cheer, Yin Zhika, Guiqing, Lin Hua and the others looked at each other, stood up from their seats and shouted in unison. Come on, Lu Cheng. This was the tacit understanding and feelings of the martial arts club gradually condensed in the previous months. With the response, Kai Zongming was no longer embarrassed. He raised his hands and shouted, come on, Lu Cheng. Why care about others' gazes? With him as an example, Wu Qian, Zhang Jingye and the others gradually plucked up their courage and made the shape of a trumpet with their hands. Come on, Lu Cheng. Their voices echoed and encouraged each other. They gradually integrated into the group and shouted more and more enthusiastically, echoing with Yen Zhika and the others, breaking the quiet and old-fashioned atmosphere. There weren't many people, but they were firm enough. The audience in formal clothes were a little restless, as if they thought it would be more stupid to do nothing. So they applauded reservedly. In the messy applause, Lu Cheng stepped into the ring with a smile, warmed by the cheers of Yen Zhika and Kai Zongming. Opposite him, Hou shook his legs and scratched the side of his head, smiling sincerely. You are very strong. I'm a little nervous. Can you not talk to me? Lu Cheng laughed involuntarily and nodded graciously. Okay. Sure enough, he is a child under 18. He thought like an old man. During the 3-minute conversation, in the live broadcast room of Donglin TV station, the guest Lin Maoxing smiled slightly and said, I've checked the information. Lu Cheng is already a professional 9th pin fighter. Every time you introduce him, you don't have to emphasize that although he has no rank, he has surpassed most of the professional 9th pin fighters. There was a time when I thought Lu Cheng would try his best to develop his supernatural ability and find a chance to participate in the ranking event of professional 8th pin, after his body had been tempered to the current limit. Then he would directly become a professional 8th pin fighter. The host Wang Tian also sighed with emotion. Coach Lin, do you think Hou has a chance to defeat Lu Cheng? Lin Maoxing thought for a while and said, the hope is not big. But Hou is a seedling that Wenxing School focuses on. He must have something special. If Lu Cheng underestimates his opponent, he may suffer some losses, which will have a great impact on the final result of the competition. Wang Tian nodded slightly and said, Coach Lin is right. Our reporter has interviewed several disciples of Wenxing School and found that they are, inexplicably confident about Hou. While they were explaining in Lu Cheng's fan forum, Brahman said, twisting with arms akimbo expression, these people are so unprofessional. Little Dragon is the best. He found out that our idol got a professional 9th pin certificate on the same day. Unparalleled Dragon King said in a daze, when did I become Little Dragon? Are you going to call me Little Loach in the future? Besides, if you know his name and domicile, you can check it on the official website. After hanging out with girls like Brahman, Eternal Nightfall, and Wonton Seller for a long time, he felt that his mentality had become younger. Sometimes he would inadvertently act cute while talking. The internet is really scary. Little Dragon, Little Dragon, Little Dragon. How many moves do you think our Lu Cheng can beat this monkey? Yen Xiaoling asked excitedly. Unparalleled Dragon King replied with a scornful expression. Don't underestimate any professional 9th pin. If there is no unexpected thing, It will be very difficult for Lu Qing to win quickly. Oh, I understand. Yan Xiaoling didn't feel offended and didn't mind exposing her IQ in this aspect. In the arena, Lu Qing kept his promise and didn't disturb Hou Yu. He adjusted himself to the best state, and finally considered the next fighting strategy. During this process, he vaguely felt a sense of oppression and anxiety, as if a storm was about to come. Lu Qing felt that this was not because of Hou Yu, but because of Zhou Zhengquan, who was the second to fight. Outsiders only knew that his stamina was limitless and he was not afraid of taking turns to fight, but they didn't know that his energy was limited. Thunder Roar Zen was okay, but he could only use Frost Force 3 times. If too much energy was consumed by Hou Yu, then when he faced Zhou Zhengquan, it was very likely that he wouldn't be able to create the best chance for his brother-in-law to win. I must try to save energy in this fight with Hou Yu. And the best way to save energy is to go all out without holding back, and try to win in 4 or 5 moves. Lu Qing took a breath and the ripples in his heart gradually stopped, and the water condensed into ice. The referee looked at the electronic clock, raised his right hand and waved it down heavily. Start! Lu Qing was like a sprinter who heard the starting gun. The power that he had been accumulating for a long time burst out. He stamped his feet, straightened his bent knees, and quickly rushed to Hou Yu like a cloud leopard hunting for prey. He knew that in addition to fly-fall punch, Hou Yu also specially visited a famous teacher and learned monkey form kung fu, which was very good at dodging. Therefore, he didn't directly prepare Frost Force and Thunder Roar Zen. If he missed, wouldn't it be a waste of energy? Facing Lu Qing's attack, Hou Yu swayed his body like a flexible monkey. He flashed to the side of Lu Qing and suddenly and quickly kicked out his right leg. At this moment, Lu Qing's spine bounced, his waist and back wriggled, and his center of gravity swayed like mercury. He unexpectedly changed his direction in a split second, and made Hou Yu's kick hit nothing. He immediately visualized rolling lead clouds in his mind, and compressed the corresponding muscles one after another. He turned his waist and back and shook out his right arm like a hammer. Thunder Roar Zen. Hou Yu's face slightly changed. He suddenly fell back and did 3 somersaults in a row. Not only did he pull away from Lu Qing, but he also firmly maintained his center of gravity. Lu Qing didn't show any mercy. He exerted strength under his feet and crushed the black bricks. He chased after Hou Yu. Although you somersaults are fast, you can't be faster than me. Just when Hou Yu stopped, Lu Qing had already caught up with him. He tightened the muscles of his palm, forearm, and upper arm and swung his left fist. The second move of Thunder Roar Zen. As soon as he landed, he executed his footwork and fled forward like an agile monkey. Lu Qing took large strides, pouncing and catching up. In a few steps, he had already caught up to him. His muscles, tendons, and internal organs changed accordingly. In his mind, he visualized a surging river. His Thunder Roar Zen might not be able to affect Hou Yu too much within 1 or 2 strikes, so his Frost Force was much safer. If he didn't take advantage of this opportunity to make this monkey stiffen up and allow it to jump around again, his energy consumption would be even greater. Feeling the breath close behind him, Hou Yu suddenly stomped his feet like 2 iron nails firmly nailed to the ground. His body turned around and swung his waist and back. In his mind, he visualized mountains and lakes that were constantly accumulating. Splash! The embankment of the lake collapsed, and the flood poured down in a terrifying manner. It affected the corresponding muscles and tendons of Hou Yu's body, so that he punched out both of his fists fiercely. His punch not only had a terrifying impact, but also had the power to slap the enemy and the swing force to throw the enemy away. It was actually a combination of several kinds of force exertion skills, which was really a high-level fist art. Fly fall punch. Dam break. Lu Qing was so confident that he didn't dodge. Instead, he activated the cold current in his body and froze the surging river in his mind. Instantly, the waves became crystal clear, and the cold current turned into a tide. Frost Force. Bang. Hou Yu's punches were very skillful. They didn't hit left and right, but left and right. Combined with the momentum of the flood breaking the dam, They dispersed part of the cold force and threw Lu Qing away. However, his body trembled as if a cold wind came from inside. His lips instantly turned blue, and his arms were obviously stiff. He didn't take the opportunity to counterattack. Thump, thump, thump. He heard his own violent heartbeat, and felt the blood gushing to his torso and limbs. I'm alive. For a moment, he actually had such a feeling. This was the result after he dispersed part of the cold force by himself. It's really terrible. After being thrown away, Lu Qing stretched his body in the air and landed steadily. Then he took a step forward, stepped on the bricks, and turned around to launch a strong attack again. He wanted to take advantage of his opponent's cold and stiff body to force him to fight head-on. Facing this, Hou seized the last moment, took a deep breath, and made a humming sound. He shook his muscles, fascia, and internal organs with the internal training method, and dissolved part of the cold. When Lu Qing was about to come close, he lifted his leg and dodged nimbly. The two people, one chasing and the other escaping, kept changing their positions on the field, like a tiger trying to catch an ape. Hou, who had been prepared, wriggled his abdomen and made a humming sound to barely stop the shock. He seized the opportunity and rushed forward, throwing out a punch. Flying fall straight. At the critical moment, Lu Qing, who had been guarding against Hou's trump card, suddenly exhaled and made a sound like thunder in his abdomen, creating a reverse shock and counteracting most of the impact. His muscles wriggled and his spine straightened. When Hou's fist was about to hit him, he bounced back and stepped back steadily and orderly, calmly avoiding the blow. Then he stepped forward, swung his left arm, visualized a thundercloud, and hammered down fiercely. Hou had no time to dodge, so he could only forcibly raise his arms to resist. Bang! Under the thunder roar Zen, his body seemed to be beaten to the ground, and his qi and blood were rolling fiercely. Lu Qing would not give him any chance to dodge, so he unreasonably swung his arms and hammered again and again. Bang! 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 Hou was dizzy, and his qi and blood rushed to his throat. He staggered and barely held on with his last bit of willpower. Lu Qing stopped the thunder roar Zen, and stopped in front of his opponent. Hou's eyes were blank, and his legs were weak. He fell to the ground without any external force and kept retching. Phew, finally won. Lu Qing exhaled a mouthful of foul air, and his mind was a little clearer. He felt the heat flow from the jindan, soothing the tiredness of his body, and also felt a little empty in his head. In the guest team seats, Yanjeka stood up happily with her fists clenched. Then she thought of the videos she had watched before. Most of the strong fighters who fought with Hou did not choose to fight steadily, but to attack fiercely just like Cheng. Could it be? Her heart stirred as she thought of a certain possibility. Could it be that Hou had a supernatural ability that could make his opponent irritable? Lu Qing rubbed his temples subconsciously, and also felt something was wrong. At the beginning, he had expected to go all out without holding back. Once there was a chance, he would not hesitate to use the frost force to finish Hou quickly and save more energy. However, the more he fought, the more anxious he became. He even fought with Hou's strong points, and missed several thunder roar Zen. The consumption was much greater than expected. He sobered up and recalled what happened before. Suddenly, he grasped the feeling of depression and impatience that he had felt at the very beginning. This is not normal. Can Hou affect my mood? Lu Qing narrowed his eyes and could not help but look at Hou who was being helped down the stage. He saw that Hou's legs were like noodles, and he could not stand steadily. At the same time, he also saw Zhou Zhenquan take off his coat and calmly walk to the arena. Chapter 205. Lu Qing wins the first round. As the referee's voice reverberated, Guqing, Lin Hua and the others in the away team seats were all excited for Lu Qing's victory. Let's see how far Cheng can go in the fight with Zhou Zhenquan. Sun Jian said with joy and expectation. Li Mao nodded and said, yeah. In their eyes, Lu Qing was famous for his abnormal physical strength. Taking turns to fight him would be useless. As long as he could defeat Hou, he would be able to face the professional 8th Pin Dan stage Mighty One in his best condition. Feeling the high spirits of her companions, Yanjika bit her lower lip and said nothing. Others thought that as long as Cheng was not defeated, he would be able to face the challenges of the following opponents in perfect condition. However, she knew clearly that Cheng also had his limits. After the tremor massage in the ranking event, she found a chance to ask him about it. She knew that his physical strength was indeed abnormal, more than 10 times or even dozens of times that of ordinary people. However, his energy and spirit were not the same. Relying on meditation, he was only 3 or 4 times stronger than fighters of the same rank, which was still human. After such a battle, he would not be relaxed now. She thought of his perseverance in massaging her with the tremor force. She thought of his tiredness when he fell asleep as soon as his head hit the pillow. She thought of her own heartache and heartbeat at that time. She thought of his kiss when he was brimming with warmth and passion. Her eyes were filled with tenderness and expectation. Lu Cheng, come on Lu Cheng. In the stands, Kai Zhongming, Zhang Jingye and other followers showed their joy and excitement without hiding. They ignored the unfriendly looks and vented their feelings to their heart's content. When Zhou Zhengquan was about to enter the arena, they took a breather. Professional 8th pin dance stage. Will Lu Qing be okay? Wu Qian asked worriedly. Her forehead was covered with sweat and her cheeks were flushed because of the intense shouting. As a college student who grew up in today's society, even if she seldom touched martial arts, she still knew the common sense of ranks. Zhang Jingye said with a bright smile, "It's okay. Didn't I tell you? Cheng's physical strength is so freakish that he has no friends. Now he is like a beginner. Although he probably can't beat an 8th pin dance stage fighter, at least he can create a lot of trouble for his opponent. Lin Ke will have an easier time later." Kai Zhongming and the others nodded, making the girls in the female dormitory even more excited. This is going to be a good show. Yi Yaoting changed her sitting posture and stared at the ring with great interest. She was the kind of person who craved for the whole world to be in chaos. Although Lu Cheng had left her with a deep impression of defeat and a sense of frustration for not being a genius, and although Zhou Zhengquan was a friend whom she called senior brother, she still hoped that there would be some unexpected excitement. She still hoped that both of them could fight to the death. Jiang Lan smiled faintly and sighed. With his stamina, little brother Zhou won't have it easy. Unfortunately, it was obvious that Lu Cheng had not reached the peak of body refining. Otherwise, with such martial arts strength, coupled with the core force of the ice sect based on his supernatural ability and the continuous tremor punch, it was not impossible for him to defeat an 8th pin fighter of dance stage. It was not impossible for him to fight for the certificate of professional 8th pin. Stepping into the dance stage meant reaching rank 8, but rank 8 did not necessarily mean that one was in the dance stage. In Lu Cheng's fan forum, Unparalleled Dragon King posted a post. Lu Cheng's fight just now was a bit strange. It was like he was trying to hit a mosquito with a hammer weighing thousands of pounds. Eternal Nightfall, Yan Xiaoling replied with Nike mouth. So what? Anyway, he won. With his stamina, what's the big deal about swinging a few times? I'm just saying it casually. Lu Cheng used to be very talented in fighting. This shouldn't happen. Unparalleled Dragon King was not angry at the little girl's rebuke. I don't care. I don't care. Anyway, he won. Yan Xiaoling replied firmly. Brahman, who was watching the match attentively, also said, "That's right. Who doesn't perform well on the spot sometimes? And his coach is super awesome. He will definitely give him a summary after the match." Unparalleled Dragon King could only send a "what else can I say" emoji. Little dragon, to what extent do you think my idol and that Zhou what you want fight? Brahman asked lively. Unparalleled Dragon King thought for a while and said, Lu Cheng's stamina is definitely at its peak. Even if he can't win against an 8th pin of dance stage, it won't be easy for him to win. He will have to pay a certain price. And the longer the fight drags on, the better it will be for him. Haha, little dragon, you are such a good guy. Brahman generously sent a good guy card. In the seats of Wenxing School, seeing Hou being supported back, Shui Yanjun couldn't help but sigh. Little monkey, what a pity. Li Shengnen followed and said, Sigh, if you didn't meet Lu Cheng whose stamina is like a bug, but Lin Ke, you might have won. Using the monkey form to constantly distract the opponent, and make him use his killing moves because of his impatience. This could be an effective way to deal with a top professional ninth pin fighter. Not necessarily. Hoyu smiled bitterly and shook his head. My supernatural ability can only affect the opponent's mood, but it can't change their thinking. Other ninth pin fighters may be impatient, but they won't always use moves that consume a lot of energy. Speaking of this, he suddenly thought of Lu Qing just now. He felt that Lu Qing was like a bottomless sea. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't make him feel tired at all. In the end, he could still throw out Tremor Punch like a storm. It was terrifying. In the arena, Lu Qing took a breath to relieve the emptiness in his mind. Looking at Zhou Zhengquan, who was calmly walking up the stone steps, he started to think about his next move. He and Yanjika had discussed Zhou Zhengquan's martial arts, strength, and characteristics many times, so he was quite familiar with them. After a brief recollection, the key points flashed in his mind. In view of this, Lu Qing decided to think from Zhou Zhengquan's perspective. He wanted to see how Zhou Zhengquan saw him. His most important impression of me must be that I have the supernatural abilities of flame and frost. With the latter, I have mastered one of the core forces of the ice sect. My physical strength is abnormal, and I am not afraid of taking turns to fight. I seem to be able to use Tremor Punch all the time. At thinking of this, Lu Cheng's heart suddenly jolted as he grasped a certain key point. His energy was limited, and he couldn't throw out Tremor Punch all the time. This was a secret that only he and Ku knew. Even his master only vaguely knew about it. In other words, in Zhou Zhengquan's eyes, he was not tired at present, and it was impossible for him to be tired. Therefore, it was better to bluff and set up an empty fort strategy to create an opportunity to use the Frost Force. Lu Cheng felt a little regretful that his severe warning was just a threshold and couldn't be applied in actual combat. Otherwise, there would be hope for him to turn the situation around. Of course, after the fight with Hoyu, he had a new understanding of Zhou Zhengquan. The water sect had the move of accumulating strength and erupting suddenly, while the Dan stage had the move of condensing the whole body's strength and erupting suddenly. The combination of the two may have an unexpected effect. Watching Zhou Zhengquan's fights in the past 6 months, because he had never fought with a Dan stage fighter, and all of them were professional ninth pin fighters. This didn't show, but it didn't mean that it didn't exist. He had to be careful of this. While he was thinking, Zhou Zhengquan, who had always maintained his composure, finally walked to the opposite side. He patted his dark martial arts suit, bent his legs, and leisurely made the starting gesture of fly-fall punch. Lu Qing put away all kinds of thoughts and put his body in the best condition again. This would be the first time he faced a complete eighth pin fighter. The referee raised his right hand, looked left and right, and then suddenly waved it down. Start. Lu Qing deliberately created an illusion that he was not tired at all. He turned his spine into a bowstring, bent it and then bounced it. Then he exerted force on his legs and leaped out like an arrow, launching an attack in a head-on manner. Zhou Zhengquan's eyelids twitched, but he looked self-satisfied and his posture didn't change. Dan stage fighters had absolute reaction, so he didn't feel Lu Cheng's intention to attack. When Lu Cheng approached Zhou Zhengquan, he swayed his center of gravity and completed a sliding step like a flying fairy. In a flash, he flashed to the side of Zhou Zhengquan. He straightened his back, raised his right hand, and was about to throw a downward punch. Zhou Zhengquan calmly put his right arm forward and took a step to the right. At this moment, Lu Cheng's spine squirmed, swayed his center of gravity again, and pulled his body back to the position before the sliding step. Then he stepped on the ground, shook his waist, and moved his fascia. His right fist was like a cannonball. However, Zhou Zhengquan's back muscles bulged, his spine bounced, and pulled his body back with the posture of mercurial center of gravity. Purely by the abdominal muscles, he shook his left arm as fast as lightning. Fly-fall punch, continuous. You can't hide from me when you are feinting, and when you are making a real move. But you want to compete with me in mercurial center of gravity? Isn't this like showing off in front of a Luban? Lu Cheng's mercurial center of gravity would affect his strength, and once he lowered his waist, it would be obvious when he wanted to shake his center of gravity again. However, the mercurial center of gravity of a Dan stage fighter was based on the unity of the strength of the whole body, which had turned into an instinct of the body. He could use it and disperse it at will, and there was almost no connection problem. Bang! The two fists collided, and they shook at the same time. They were evenly matched. Lu Qing used his feet to exert strength, while Zhou Zhengquan only used the corresponding muscles. This was the gap between Lu Qing and an 8th pin Dan stage fighter. After one successful move, Zhou Zhengquan's connection was faster and more compact than Hou Yu's. Under the situation of the unity of the whole body, his every move was equivalent to the strength of Lu Cheng's feet. Back strength, abdominal muscles bulging, shoulder explosive strength, fascia pulling, joint 1-inch punch. Zhou Zhengquan's moves were faster and faster, launching continuous attacks, leaving Lu Qing no time to tighten and compress his muscles. He didn't even dare to use the strength of his feet. He could only reluctantly follow his opponent and make moves with his abdomen, back, joints and fascia. After a few moves, he was almost beaten out of his stance and was in danger. However, Lu Qing didn't panic. The current situation was what he had expected at the beginning of the attack. He was replicating the fight with Wei Xingtian. Since he didn't have time to compress his muscles and make a tremor punch, he would rely on his opponent's oppressive strength to do it passively, bit by bit. After a few moves, he consciously controlled his right hand, right arm, and right shoulder to complete the tightening. The thundercloud in his mind exploded, and Lu Qing swung his waist and back. Under the impact of his opponent's continuous flood, he suddenly counterattacked with his right fist. The first move of Thunder Roar Zen. Chapter 206. Bang! When Zhou Zhengquan's shoulder exploded, he swung out his left arm and hit Lu Cheng's fist. However, it was like hitting a bomb. He only felt a buzzing sound in his ears. The impact was abrupt, and the strong shock spread instantly. He felt like he jumped on the spot. His muscles, joints, and fascia were all trembling involuntarily. Tremor punch. His pupils shrank slightly and he took a short breath. Lu Qing was not going to let his opponent go. He straightened his back and tightened his left arm. He was going to swing his arm and hit continuously to create a more terrifying shock for the next Frost Force attack. He didn't want to give his opponent a chance to dodge. At this moment, he felt that with the short breath, Zhou Zhengquan's rolling qi and blood, external strength, and living spirit seemed to be shrinking inward. The full outbreak of a mighty one of the Dan stage? Lu Qing thought. According to what he had experienced and observed before. He bounced his spine and took a step to the side to avoid the front. He didn't want to use Thunder Roar Zen to fight with his opponent head-on. In that way, although Zhou Zhengquan would suffer more violent shock, his body would definitely be broken up or even fly out. If he was careless, he would be defeated and unable to further weaken his opponent. He had to endure the impulse and wait for the best opportunity. But when he stepped away, Zhou Zhengquan's qi and blood stabilized. His abdomen wriggled and his mouth made a humming sound. The contraction and consolidation just now were like an illusion. The shock stopped quickly. Zhou Zhengquan put on a leisurely smile, as if he was saying, "I was just fooling you." He straightened his knees and pounced on his opponent again. His speed and momentum were so fast that they almost turned into substance and pressed on Lu Cheng's heart. Lu Qing couldn't help but feel a little annoyed that the opportunity he had created with painstaking effort was so easily solved by his opponent. However, the negative feeling disappeared in a flash as the lake in his heart froze into ice. This was a bad thing, but also a good thing. At least it made Zhou Zhengquan sure that he wasn't tired. Because of this, he had to be cautious and look for a better opportunity to delay the battle. The real one who cut off all means of retreat was like a wolf or a tiger. Once he found blood, he would pounce on it regardless of his own safety. Later, he would be able to surprise him with this. In the face of Zhou Zhengquan's flood-like attack, Lu Qing calmly took a few steps back. During this process, he maintained his center of gravity and footwork with his superb control over his body, as if he had another pair of eyes in the back of his head. While Lu Qing kept retreating, Zhou Zhengquan kept attacking. The distance between them was quickly narrowing. When Lu Qing had accumulated enough strength and momentum to launch a fierce counterattack, imitating Lin Kei's story of retreating in order to advance, Zhou Zhengquan swung his center of gravity and sprung his spine. Without any hesitation, he circled to the side. His timing was perfect, giving Lu Qing the uncomfortable feeling of hitting cotton with 1,000 kilograms of force. The ability of the Dan stage, absolute reaction. Zhou Zhengquan and Wei Xingtian had completely different fighting styles. What was effective for the latter might not work for the former, just like now. Lu Qing was once again pushed to the front by Zhou Zhengquan. He was once again attacked by Zhou Zhengquan's continuous momentum of fly-fall punch. Low kick, exploding shoulder, 1-inch punch, claw, and crushing punch burst out alternately. This time, Lu Qing learned to be smart. He calmed down and borrowed strength from the listening force. Instead of using his feet, he relied on the 24 blizzard strikes to cooperate with the corresponding body parts to make up for the disadvantage in strength and connection. Sometimes he pulled the fascius on both sides and quickly punched. Sometimes he swelled his back muscles to rebound and counterattack. Sometimes he outlined his abdominal muscles and borrowed strength to fight back. Gradually he grasped the meaning of 24 blizzard strikes and solved the flaws in his connection. The more he fought, the crazier, fiercer, and faster he fought. Bang bang bang. Bang bang bang. The two of them kept colliding in the small space, stirring up muffled sounds of fists hitting flesh and blood. At the end of the fight, Lu Qing deeply understood what it meant to have the strength of the Dan stage as one. Even if he tried his best, he couldn't stop the disadvantage from coming slowly. During this process, Zhou Zhengquan, who was wearing a black martial arts suit, constantly changed the direction of his mercurial balance to create an uncomfortable change of rhythm. This was to prevent Lu Qing from being forced to compress and use tremor punch. At the same time, Zhou Zhengquan dispersed the accumulated strength of his listening skill and disrupted the connection of 24 blizzard strikes. He displayed a martial arts foundation that was far superior to his opponent. Zhou Zhengquan was not discouraged. He had only been practicing martial arts for half a year. Although he had undergone a complete transformation with the help of the Jindan and his own hard work, he was still far behind Zhou Zhengquan in terms of details and experience, who had been practicing martial arts since he was a child and had been practicing martial arts for a long time. Only when you find the problem and the gap can you know how to make up for it. Who would be at full level at the beginning? Lu Qing was about to be defeated by the dripping water to penetrate the stone, and his opponent was about to defeat him in a way that didn't consume much energy. Suddenly, he stabilized his center of gravity and lowered his waist to sit in his crotch. He pushed his feet inward. When his arm touched Zhou Zhengquan's fist, he suddenly turned his waist and back. His muscles and joints all opened up and threw out a strong swing force like a volcanic eruption. Zhou Zhengquan's upper body immediately swung to the side, but his feet were firmly nailed to the original position. Crack. Obvious cracks appeared on the green brick where he was standing. His body fiercely bounced back. Lu Qing had expected this. He took the opportunity to visualize rolling thunder clouds and tightened and compressed the corresponding muscles. Bang. He stepped on the green brick with his feet and broke it. His two shoes collapsed and turned into fluttering butterflies. The strong rebound went all the way up through his ankle and knee joints. Lu Qing straightened his back and swung his right arm to punch Zhou Zhengquan with the force of 1,000 pounds. Boom. The thunder clouds in his mind exploded, and there seemed to be a burst of vibration. Facing this, Zhou Zhengquan, who took the initiative to attack, didn't have time to dodge. He also visualized the accumulated water and the rising posture, completely integrating the rebound force into himself. Splash. The water current surged, flying straight down, hitting the ground, splashing up waves. Fly-fall punch, waterfall. Bang. Circles of invisible ripples spread out from the place where the two fists met. Lu Qing's qi and blood were surging, his muscles and joints were trembling obviously, and he felt like vomiting. But he was prepared. His abdominal muscles wriggled, and together with the thunder clouds in his mind, made a buzzing sound and counteracted most of the impact with a reverse vibration. Opposite him, Zhou Zhengquan also neutralized the impact with a humming sound. After a pause, Lu Qing tightened the instep without shoes, turned his waist and whipped out a whip kick. Zhou Zhengquan seemed to recover faster than him. He calmly bulged his thigh muscles and kicked at the right time to block. Bang. The two collided in the air, and suddenly a little bit of white frost condensed and disappeared in a flash. Zhou Zhengquan felt a chill in his heart. He immediately felt the rolling cold wave penetrating his shoes, into his skin and into his blood, bringing a chill that made his body stiff. Ice sect force? His lips suddenly turned blue, and his eyes were full of surprise. Lu Cheng retracted his right foot, bent his body and was about to shake out his arm. But in his mind, the crystal-clear river sealed thousands of miles away, locking the kinetic energy. The so-called force could not only be released through the hands. It had been more than a month since he defeated the Azure Dragon squad. Although he didn't master the severe warning, he had practiced the frost force to his feet. Because his own special ability wasn't strong enough, if the cold wave passed through both his and the enemy's martial arts shoes, it would weaken to the point where the martial artist could withstand it. Therefore, he had taken the initiative to destroy his shoes just now, all for this unexpected kick. Zhou Zhengquan's body was stiff for a short time. Seeing that Lu Cheng was about to take advantage of his surprise attack, he couldn't wait for the next round. In an instant, his qi and blood, his spirit, his willpower, and his whole body's strength all contracted to his abdomen, as if condensing into a human body. Big Dan. Even the feeling of cold and stiffness was integrated into it. Lu Cheng knew that he was about to face the explosive attack of a Dan stage master, but he didn't dodge. Instead, he calmly adjusted his body and reluctantly visualized the turbid river flowing in the ice field again. He didn't have the energy to wait any longer. He had to fight with his back to the river and cut off all means of retreat. The cold wave rushed and froze the river quickly. Even the falling waves were condensed into ice crystals. Everything seemed to be still. Lu Cheng stepped on the ground, put strength in his waist and back, and pushed his shoulder, and threw out a cold punch. Frost force, cold wave tide. Boom. Zhou Zhengquan's human body Big Dan exploded, spewing out a mighty force, dispelling the cold and driving away the stiffness. Bang. His right fist was like a flood that broke through a dam, striking out powerfully. Bang. Lu Cheng was directly sent flying, and a layer of white frost condensed on Zhou Zhengquan's right arm for a short time. Thump 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 thump, thump thump. Zhou Zhengquan's heartbeat suddenly became so violent that even the audience at the side of the arena seemed to be able to hear it. Following that, his blood rushed out like a rushing river, breaking the ice layer and the stiffness. However, Lu Cheng's energy was already at its limit. He barely managed to successfully use the last frost force. Now that he was flying in the air, he wanted to adjust his muscles and regain his center of gravity as usual. He had more than enough strength, but not enough heart. With a flop, he directly fell on the ground of the arena, which made Yin Zhika worried. Zhou Zhengquan stepped forward. His body was a little slow, but he rushed to Lu Cheng's side before he turned over and stood up. Bang! He tightened his thighs and quickly whipped out. Lu Cheng barely raised his arms to block, but he was whipped out of his stance. Bang! Zhou Zhengquan repeatedly kicked, not giving him a chance to breathe. The instep of his foot stopped at his neck. The second round, Zhou Zhengquan wins. The referee raised his right hand. Lu Cheng took a breath and stood up steadily. He didn't show his actual tiredness. After slightly nodding as a greeting, he quickly turned around and walked out of the arena. Although his first frost force blocked Zhou Zhengquan's martial arts shoes, and the second one was an arrow at the end of its flight, but the combination of the two could still beat a direct hit of the frost force. Of course, he couldn't give this professional eighth pin of the Dan stage more time to recover. This could be considered to have accomplished the initial goal. In the guest team seats, Lin Kei took off his coat with a cold face and strode out. Chapter 207. In the stands, Yi Yaoting rested her chin on one hand and said with confusion, Lu Cheng's last choice was very reckless. Shouldn't he have retreated to avoid senior brother Zhou's explosive counterattack and patiently waited for the next opportunity? In that way, not only could he have successfully consumed senior brother Zhou's all-out attack, but he could have continued to weaken and hit the ice sect force again. However, he gave up the best choice and acted as if he had no way to retreat and no patience. He hurriedly added another ice force, which was really hard to understand. This was very inconsistent with her impression of him as someone who was good at improvisation. Without waiting for Jiang Lan's answer, Yi Yaoting suddenly thought of Lu Cheng's slightly impatient fighting style in the battle with Hou Yu. She connected the dots and felt that this was a change in the same vein. Then she remembered some words circulating in Wensheng school and her private discussion with Jiang Lan. She suddenly understood and said in a low voice, "It's junior brother Hou's supernatural ability, right? Its influence actually lingered in this battle. It's very possible." Jiang Lan said thoughtfully and then added, "But I don't think Lu Cheng's way of dealing with it is too big a problem." "Why?" Yi Yaoting blinked her eyes, looking puzzled. Jiang Lan smiled and explained, "Don't you think that little brother Zhou was so timid and overcautious just now?" "Sister Lan, you mean senior brother Zhou tried to defeat Lu Cheng with the least consumption? Is that wrong? There's still Lin Ke waiting behind." Yi Yaoting didn't think there was anything wrong with it. Jiang Lan sighed and said, "This may have something to do with the fact that he has only fought in the challenge tournament. According to my experience, the more you want to hold back, the more you want to defeat the enemy in the most economical and practical way, the more the loss will outweigh the gain. If junior brother Zhou had suppressed Lu Cheng with the continuous momentum and used all his strength at all costs, the result may be completely different. At that time, Lu Cheng would have no time to use the ice sect force. At most, he could use tremor punch. When little brother Zhou finds out that he only got a surprise attack of the ice sect force and an unnecessary outburst of his full strength, he will definitely change his fighting style. If Lu Cheng chooses to dodge this time, he may not have the chance to give little brother Zhou another hit of the ice sect force. In other words, it was a matter of opinion whether it was better to hit the opponent with the ice sect force one more time, or to let the opponent consume another burst of his full strength. Yi Yaoting nodded, not fully understanding. She reconsidered the battle just now. In the home team seats, Zhu Yanjun, Li Shengnan, and the others looked at Hou Yu in surprise and joy. "Junior brother Hou, your ability has improved again? Is it still affecting Lu Cheng's mood after so long?" Hou Yu was confused and said, Maybe he belongs to the type that is more easily influenced." Although he didn't quite understand this development, at least it was still within reason. In the fan forum, when the camera switched to follow Lin Ke, Eternal Nightfall, Yin Shaoling said, "So angry. Why didn't they film him more during the broadcast? I really want to see him back on the bench." "Me too." Brahmin jumped out. "Didn't you find a super beautiful substitute girl in Songqing University Martial Arts Club last time? I've always wanted to see if she had any interaction with Lu Cheng. Is she Lu Cheng's girlfriend? If she is Lu Cheng's girlfriend, I can barely accept it." Yen Shaoling replied, full of fantasy. "A talented man and a beautiful woman. Together every day, one asking for advice, one practicing a set of moves, and there will be physical contact from time to time. Oh, it's like dry wood burning with fire, burning at the slightest touch." Brahmin replied, "I can also accept it. After all, I'm still young. Who knows, there might be some rich and powerful love rivals. Then Lu Cheng's martial arts will improve by leaps and bounds. Life is full of ups and downs. Don't bully a poor young man." Unparalleled Dragon King interrupted. "What kind of novels and TV series do you usually read? And don't you think Lu Cheng's last fight was a little strange?" "I read all the novels in the boys' club." Brahmin replied happily. Little Nightfall, speaking of this, do you still remember the ID Lu Cheng's girlfriend? Have you registered a similar one? Of course. But a lot of interesting ones have been taken." Yen Shaoling said indignantly. "Brahmin, what did you register?" "Me? I registered Lu Cheng's #1 fangirl." "What about you?" Brahmin boasted. Yen Shaoling sent a blank emoji. "I registered Lu Cheng's daughter." Oofed. Unparalleled Dragon King, Okamoto's fan, and the others all expressed their admiration. Indeed, Little Nightfall has no moral principles. "Oh, little dragon, what did you say was a little strange?" Yen Shaoling just realized. Unparalleled Dragon King joked. "Nothing. I shouldn't have discussed such a frivolous topic in such a serious situation. And after thinking about it carefully and analyzing it, it seemed to be understandable. Facing Lin Ke, Lu Cheng held out his fist and bumped it with him to complete the handover ceremony. Then he lowered his voice and reminded him, "Don't get hurt. This was a home and away match. If his brother-in-law was injured, even if they won this match, they would lose the next match." Lin Ke took back his hand and nodded slightly. He passed Lu Cheng and went to the stone steps. Before Lu Cheng returned to his seat, he saw Yin Zhika coming to him with a big white towel. "Does Hou have supernatural ability?" she asked in a low voice. Lu Cheng took the towel and wiped the sweat on his head and neck. He nodded slightly and said, "I think so. That's right. It's impossible that a ninth pin fighter would be impatient for no reason when facing Hou." Speaking of this, Yin Zhika's dimples appeared. She pursed her lips and said, "He doesn't. Lu Cheng thought about it and said with a smile, "He doesn't have an annoying face that makes the onlookers want to beat him up." Yes. Yin Zhika nodded quickly and returned to the guest seat with him. She let him put the big white towel on himself, so that he wouldn't get cold, because of the cold wind on the mountainside. Lu Cheng was sweating a lot at this time, and wearing a coat would make his clothes dirty. "That was a good fight. I got hit by your frost force twice. Now it's settled." Sun Jian and Li Mao stood up one after another. They praised him sincerely and high-fived Lu Cheng. After a short while, they sat down at the same time and looked at the arena again. "Are you tired?" Yin Zhika leaned to Lu Cheng and asked in a low voice. Yes. Lu Cheng didn't hide it. Yin Zhika felt sorry for him but couldn't hide her curiosity. She stared at her toes and asked softly, "Compared to the massage you gave me before, which was more tiring?" "Of course it was the shock force massage. My head is a little numb now, but I won't fall asleep as soon as my head hits the pillow." Lu Cheng didn't show off his tiredness and said with a smile, "Almost." "Almost." Yin Zhika's eyes sparkled. She pulled Lu Cheng's hand and helped him massage the acupoints on his palm and arm. At the same time, she pretended to be calm. She pinked her cheeks and covered the place where they were holding hands with Lu Cheng's coat to cover their interaction. Lu Cheng unconsciously raised the corner of his mouth and looked at the upcoming battle with a warm smile. Zhou Zhengquan visualized a big river and made his blood flow like running water. The sound of splashing could be heard constantly. He wanted to wash away the frost and nourish his body as much as possible. This was the recovery method derived from the unique skill of the water sect. Lin Ke stood in front of him, arched his back, ready to attack. The referee raised his right hand and shouted, "Start." Lin Ke straightened his legs and straightened his back. He rushed out like a meteor and finished the attack with a speed faster than a professional ninth pin fighter. Zhou Zhengquan was shocked but didn't panic. He exerted force on his ankle and rushed forward like water released from a sluice gate. It seemed that he was going to confront the enemy head-on. Seeing that they were about to meet, he suddenly swayed his center of gravity and slid to the side of Lin Quebec. At the same time, Lin Ke also swayed his center of gravity and finished the change of direction. They seemed to be dancing a dance with tacit understanding. Seeing this, Jiang Lan put down her right hand that was supporting her cheek and blurted out, "Mercurial balance." Has Lin Ke already mastered mercurial balance? To have mercurial balance, one had to master meditation and forcibly control it with the spirit. Or all muscles and tendons were almost integrated and the whole body's strength was smooth and transparent. In other words, Lin Ke was very close to the dance stage. At this stage, not only did the fighter have mercurial balance, but also the body's muscles and tendons were trained to the finest detail. Together with the strong spirit, he was close to absolute reaction. At most 2 months, he can really step into the dance stage. Jiang Lan came back to herself and couldn't help but sigh. He is twice as fast as me. He deserves to be a famous genius. Experts know when they show their hand. After a short fight, Zhou Zhengquan's heart became more dignified. However, compared to the fight with Lu Cheng, he didn't have to hesitate, worry, or be overcautious. He could really use his martial arts strength. He stepped on the ground and the strength rebounded without leaking out. He forcibly pulled back his center of gravity and took the initiative to lean toward Lin Quebec. Lin Ke also didn't dodge. He slid to the left, shook his shoulder, and popped out his arm. He clenched his fist and hit his waist. Bang! Zhou Zhengquan didn't dodge again. His back muscles swelled and his spine sprung. His right hand became a hammer and hit down hard. He once again launched the fly-fall punch continuous. Puff! When the two fists met, he suddenly lowered his waist and sat down, making the strength, chi, blood, and all kinds of feelings in his body shrink and hug inwards. His whole body was like a big Dan. There was no warning at all during this process. He actually acted as if he was unleashing an ordinary attack. I know you will attack me before I completely get rid of the influence of frost. I will give you this opportunity. Chapter 208. Facing Zhou Zhengquan's sudden contraction, Lin Ke felt as if he had hit a lifelike fake, as if he had stepped into an almost real trap. His arm went limp, followed by a jerk. His whole body was like a spinning top that had been whipped. He shuddered as he took 2 steps back, as if he was trying to use the yin-yang twist to seek shelter. Zhou Zhengquan's qi, blood, and strength were all concentrated to a single point. In an instant, they gushed out like a volcanic eruption. His muscles swelled and propped up his fascia and skin. At this moment, Zhou Zhengquan seemed to have grown taller and bigger. Crack! The black bricks at his feet cracked and sank. Like an eagle, he flew out fiercely. In just 1 pounce, he was already in front of Lin Quebec. He visualized the accumulated flood and merciless surging. Then he turned his waist and raised his arm, clenched his fist and punched. Fly-fall punch. Dam break. His current ferocious aura was like a tiger returning to the forest, making it impossible for anyone to hide or avoid. This was the full strength of an 8th pin Dan stage fighter. At this moment, Lin Ke, who was retreating, suddenly stopped. All of his strength, all of his kinetic energy, and all of his qi and blood collapsed as if they had been preparing for a long time. Under the pull of gravity, they condensed into a ball. Boom! The sphere exploded, its power exploding and rolling out. Along with the image of a shooting star streaking across the horizon in Lin Ke's mind, it poured into his right fist, lifted his arm, and valiantly smashed it into the ground. Crack! Lin Ke pushed his feet inward and expanded his body. He twisted his waist and swung his shoulders, throwing out a punch like a meteor or cannonball. This, Jiang Lan's pupils shrank. She found that she had renewed her understanding of Lin Quebec force concentration, was the main sign of the Dan stage. Although he could only condense it into a ball and not a point, it was enough to explain many things. Perhaps he could completely form a big Dan. Before the summer break at Songqing University. Bang! Zhou Zhengquan's and Lin Ke's fists collided with each other, creating a muffled sound. The air around them was blown away, creating a turbulent wind. Boom! Zhou Zhengquan felt as if he had been struck by a meteor falling from the sky. Not only did he have to bear the terrifying impact, but he also had to endure the subsequent explosion. He felt his bones and muscles tremble, his internal organs shake, and his blood and qi churned so much that he almost spurted it out. The meteor force, activated by imitating the explosion of the Dan stage, was truly extraordinary. More importantly, Zhou Zhengquan was no longer in his peak condition. The influence of Lu Cheng's Thunder Roar Zen and Frost Force still remained in his body. After one hit, he was almost completely paralyzed and temporarily lost his ability to move. Crack, crack, crack. Lin Ke, on the other hand, was being flung around by his opponent's boundless strength. He staggered backwards, crushing a brick with every step he took. After 5 consecutive steps, he finally steadied himself and exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. Under the effects of the flood that breached the dam, his yin-yang twist was unable to dissipate too much of the force. He had almost fractured his arm. This was the power of the combination of the explosion of the Dan stage and the dam break of the fly-fall punch. If Zhou Zhengquan was not stunned, he would have grasped the opportunity to win. Lin Ke stomped on the ground and his body bounced forward like a meteor toward his opponent. Kill him while he's down. Bam! After a few steps, Lin Ke lowered his center of gravity, rotated his waist, and the muscles on his back and arms swelled. He ferociously threw a left swing punch. Zhou Zhengquan had always been the kind of person who valued elegance over warmth. At this critical moment, his expression was calm. His chi and blood, strength, vibration, ice, stiffness, and spirit calmly contracted and condensed into a point again. He raised his arms and exploded the point in his body, letting the power roar out and drive his waist and back to suddenly turn around, sending out a strong and terrifying swing force. Lin Kei's fist just hit his opponent. It was like being hit by a 10-wheeled truck. His body flew out involuntarily, as if he was riding on the clouds. At this time, Zhou Jingquan's power contracted again, and condensed into a point. His body seemed to have lost all breath, all blood, and all feeling of being alive. Boom. That spot suddenly exploded, and the turbulent spurt was directed at his legs, shattering his shoes. With the help of this explosion, Zhou Zhengquan rushed to Lin Kei, who was just about to land in a posture that exceeded the limits of the human body. His speed and the leap made Yi Yaoting and other professional ninth pin fighters feel unimaginable. The standing long jump record of ordinary people couldn't be compared to this at all. Zhou Zhengquan's rush was like a fierce tiger hunting for its prey. Accompanied by the whistling of the wind, he arrived in front of Lin Kei when he just landed. He lowered his waist and sat in his crotch, continuously using force concentration for the third time, condensing all his feelings into a point in his dantian. At this point he had already used all his strength, even the killing move used to deal with mighty ones of the Dan stage. Flying Flow Triple Hit. Normally, 8th pin Dan stage fighters not only had a limited number of times to use all their strength, but also in the continuous use. Once 3 or 4 times, the body would be overloaded, and problems would arise. Zhou Zhengquan practiced the derivation of the unique skill of the water sect, which nourished him for a long time. Therefore, he was able to exceed the double explosion of ordinary 8th pin Dan stage fighters, and complete the triple hit. Even if Wei Shengtian, who was also of the 8th pin, was here, facing his full strength, he would be in danger. This was the real deal of 3 or 4 moves for a life. Boom. That bit of strength exploded, and all kinds of feelings gushed out. Zhou Zhengquan's body swelled, his muscles distinct and vaguely enlarged. In his mind, he visualized the unceasingly converging flood, and the unceasingly rising accumulating force. After the mighty force bounced back from his feet, he let the torrent pour down and hit the ground fiercely, splashing a loud and clear sound of splashing water. He raised his right arm and clenched his fist like a hammer. He really used all his strength and smashed down with a loud bang. Flying Flow Punch, Waterfall. This time, he wanted to keep Lin Kei in place and not send him flying. Bam! The air exploded as the fist smashed down. Lin Kei had just stabilized his center of gravity when he was faced with this despairing blow. He quickly took a breath, his body trembling, and his chi and blood condensed into a ball in an instant. In his mind, he visualized a meteor that streaked across the sky and ignited his body. He lowered his waist, crossed his legs, and got into a good posture. Since he couldn't avoid it, he might as well give it his all. Boom. The meteor fell to the ground and the ball exploded, causing Lin Kei's temples to bulge. Part of his muscles expanded, but the other part was unusually tight. Bam! He raised his legs and swung his waist. His right hand formed a fist and punched upwards as if he was moving or blocking. Bang! Their fists collided. Both of their bodies shook at the same time, as if they would bounce up in the next second. Zhou Zhengquan had the absolute advantage, so he didn't suffer much from the shock. However, the remnants in his body were far greater than Lin Kei's. Once triggered, his body shook endlessly, his chi and blood surged, and his throat became dry. This made his left leg, which he wanted to pull out, go weak, and he couldn't keep up in time. Lin Kei, on the other hand, was hammered down from above. His feet seemed to sink into the black bricks. His muscles and tendons were also shaken, trembling uncontrollably. At this moment, he was as stiff as a puppet, and eerily shot backwards as if he had been pushed in the chest by an invisible giant. Yin-yang twist. At the critical moment he borrowed strength from the yin-yang twist, and used it to exile himself, away from Zhou Zhengquan, to avoid the following attacks. Zhou Zhengquan's flying 3 consecutive strikes was extremely terrifying. After blocking and borrowing, Lin Kei still couldn't resolve it. He could only follow the momentum and fall to the ground, rolling continuously. If he didn't do so, he would have suffered serious internal injuries. During this process, Lin Ke controlled the strength in his body, continuously twitching his tendons and bulging his muscles. He quickly collided with the ground, diverting and borrowing the force again and again. Zhou Zhengquan managed to stabilize the shock and cold current with great difficulty. He was about to give chase when he felt his body become empty. He almost couldn't maintain his elegant posture. Sigh, if I could successfully throw myself out this time, Lin Ke would have lost. He couldn't help but sigh. If he hadn't been hit twice by the frost force, if he hadn't been hit by the tremor punch continuously, and if he hadn't consumed more energy than expected, now would be the time to reap the fruits of victory. Taking a deep breath, Zhou Zhengquan took a big stride forward. Just as he was in front of Lin Ke, he saw Lin Ke's right hand press down and use the momentum to flip over. Then, without warning, his left leg lashed out. It was fast and fierce, with a force of at least 1,000 pounds. Bam! Dan's stage fighters had absolute reaction, so Zhou Zhengquan wasn't caught off guard. But his body's reaction was half a beat slower, so he couldn't seize the best time to kick out. He could only barely tighten his muscles and resist with a low kick. Bang! During the collision, Lin Ke took advantage of the force and stood up again. He stepped forward and punched without dodging. At this point, Zhou Zhengquan was really close to his limit. But he found that Lin Ke was sweating like rain and his face was pale. Obviously he wasn't relaxed, so he clenched his teeth and launched the continuous of the fly-fall punch to fight with his opponent in close quarters. Until now, Lu Cheng, who had been holding his breath since Zhou Zhengquan's 3 consecutive strikes, finally let out a long sigh of relief. He was shocked by his brother-in-law's near-death situation. If it were him, facing Zhou Zhengquan's outburst, even if he was in peak condition, he wouldn't be able to withstand it. After all, his frost force needed to be prepared and couldn't be used in a flash. Is this the real fighting ability of an 8th pin Dan stage fighter? While thinking, he suddenly noticed that Yin Zheka's right hand, which was massaging him, was tightly holding his left palm. Don't worry. He reached out and patted the back of his girlfriend's hand, comforting her. Yin Zheka tightened her pretty lips and nodded slightly. Bang 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 bang. The more Zhou Zhengquan fought, the more frightened he was. He felt like he was facing an emotionless iron mask, without fear or worry. Obviously he was tired, but his face was still indifferent and his eyes were still firm. He couldn't help but suspect that he had made a mistake. Lin Ke used the yin-yang twist, as the core and the strength of his whole body as one. He launched the 24 blizzard strikes continuously. The more he fought, the fiercer and crazier he became. Gradually, his momentum overwhelmed his opponent. At this time, Zhou Zhengquan couldn't break out even if he wanted to. He had to hold on bitterly and wait for his opponent to reach his limit. After a dozen moves, Lin Ke twisted his whole body's strength and borrowed the rebound force. He raised his left arm and put his right hand quickly. Seabed burst punch. Bang. The exhausted Zhou Zhengquan raised his hands in time to block, but they were hit directly. Bang. Lin Ke used the rebound force and threw out his left fist again, stopping at Zhou Zhengquan's lower abdomen. Zhou Zhengquan paused his movement, gasped and said confidently, "Okay, I admit defeat." Lin Ke breathed heavily and didn't respond. Sweat flowed over his eyelids, blurring his eyes. But his expression was still indifferent, and his eyes were as firm as usual. The referee raised his right hand and announced loudly, "Round 3 Lin Ke wins." That you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.